Hello everyone, I'm very glad that you listened to my story. Please give me a follow and like the video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment and provide feedback so I can improve the sound quality. Yes, I will now continue the unfinished story. Chapter 71, Achievement, Shocking the World at Your Own Funeral. 1. Chapter 71, Achievement, Shocking the World at Your Own Funeral. 1. Only the majority of the teaching staff, the teachers and students of grade 12 class 4, and some parents of the students were left. The students of grade 12 class 4 stood in front of the flag-raising platform with the teachers. In front of them were two coffins. That was their classmate's coffin. 7 days ago, they entered the examination hall from here. Now, the students who were still alive were waiting for their classmates' bodies to return. The two students who had yet to return had their return imprint that matched the teleportation imprint on them. The school placed them in two coffins respectively to ensure that after the two students returned, the young corpses that had been ravaged would no longer be exposed to the wilderness. In front of each coffin, a simple spiritual altar was built. On it were black and white photos of the two students and tributes. Although there weren't many people in the flag-raising square, the atmosphere was unusually depressing and heavy. Everyone knew what was about to happen. A moment later, a strange buzzing sound rang out. The students and teachers who had cried many times could not help but cry again. The form teacher, Libindeo, had lost a lot of weight in just 7 days. He was a grown man, but his eyes were swollen from crying. He knew. The two children had returned. Although there were only two coffins in front of their class, Libindeo looked at the young smiling face on the black and white photo in front of the two coffins. He still couldn't hide his deep self-blame. I'm sorry. Teacher is useless. Libindeo covered his face and cried. The students of grade 12 class 4 all cried loudly. On the flag-raising square, mournful cries were heard. What's going on? As soon as Jiruo returned, his vision turned black and he couldn't see anything. Meow dash, Master, is this your human world? It's so dark and small. Black. Small. Jiruo was stunned. Meow dash, 1T seems like someone is crying, it scares the cat. After Luo Qian's reminder, Jiruo could faintly hear the sound of crying. Occasionally, it was mixed with Jiruo, you died so tragically, class monitor, why are you? The martial examination is really too terrifying. Words like that. He vaguely felt that something was wrong. He moved his body slightly and found that he was in a narrow space. The top seemed to be movable. Could it be? Jiruo carefully opened a small gap in the coffin above his head, revealing only his eyes to look outside. Creak. Hearing the commotion, Libindeo's crying stopped slightly. He looked up and stared at Jiruo. Libindeo was stunned. Because of Libindeo's figure, the students behind him did not see the scene. Luo Qian's little head was pushed aside by Jiruo. He looked at the teachers and students outside, then turned back to look at the small space where he and Jiruo were at the moment. He suddenly realized, Meow dash, Master, is this your home? I see. Jiruo had a rough idea of the situation. He turned to the other coffin and said, Class monitor, don't come out yet. Everyone is holding a funeral for us. The atmosphere has already reached this point. Let's lie down a little longer. After saying that, Jiruo didn't care if Liang Shixian, who was lying in the other coffin, heard him. He winked at Libindeo and slowly lay back down. Clack. The coffin was closed. Li Bin. After waiting for 7 days and being disappointed again and again, Libindeo had long given up on whether these two students could come back alive. The ones who died the most in this martial examination were not the examines, but the patrolling martial artists. Even more than half of the patrolling martial artists had died. How could two level 6 martial apprentice students survive? Therefore, even if she didn't want to accept it, she had been sad and crying for the past 7 days. Therefore, when Jiruo opened his coffin, Libindeo was really stunned. After not sleeping for 7 days, he was in a daze and thought that he was hallucinating. Until that click. Jiruo didn't die. Libindeo suddenly rushed forward and opened Jiruo's coffin under everyone's shocked eyes. The sound of a heavy object falling to the ground suddenly rang out. Teacher Li, you. Everyone behind Libindeo was confused and shocked. She didn't know what was wrong with Libindeo. However, Libindeo didn't care too much. He was pleasantly surprised to see Jiruo lying in the coffin, covered in dirt and looking extremely miserable. Jiruo. You're still alive. Jiruo, who had his coffin opened, sat up immediately. There was a black cat on his head and a bright smile on his face. He said to Li Bin. Teacher, I'm back to hand in my homework. Almost at the same time, the coffin next to him was pushed open from the inside. Liang Shixian came out of it and his first reaction was to scan the field. When Liang Shixian saw that all the familiar faces were present, he heaved a sigh of relief and said loudly. Reporting to the teacher, grade 12 class 4 is here. Everyone in the entire flag-raising square seemed to have their throats suddenly grabbed by something. In an instant, there was silence. She couldn't cry anymore, but she laughed. It seemed that his emotions were not quite in place. The originally mournful atmosphere was forcefully interrupted, and everyone's emotions were somewhat incoherent. Seeing this, Jiruo curled her lips slightly and said, "Class monitor, I told you. It's better to lie down for a while more. We came out too early after all, the atmosphere has already reached this point." As he spoke, Jiruo climbed out of the coffin as if no one else was around. He picked up an apple from the table in front of his coffin and took a bite. "Teacher, is it okay if I eat my own tribute?" Liang Shixian whispered, "Jiruo, pay attention to the occasion. We're not playing house now." As he spoke, Liang Shixian looked at the stunned Li Bindao and said apologetically, "I'm sorry, Teacher Li. You know that Jiruo is like this." Before he could finish speaking, Liang Shixian and Jiruo were hugged tightly by the excited Li Bindao. Li Bindao's voice trembled as tears fell again. "It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back. Good child. We've Sincere praise from an elder. Progress +1, current, 3/10. Congratulations to the host for triggering the secondary function, he had shocked everyone at his own funeral. Achievement: play house together, level up. Increase effect of substitution by 10%. Jiruo, how did you survive? Class President, what did you guys do in the Myriad Beast Mountain for the next few days? Did you meet any patrolling martial artists? That's great. Not a single person from our class is missing. Everyone is back. Jiruo, why did you bring a cat back?" After a brief moment of shock, all the students excitedly surrounded Jiruo and Liang Shixian, asking all sorts of questions. Jiruo looked at the students who still had tears on their faces and answered their questions one by one. Luo Qian seemed to be a little unaccustomed to the enthusiasm displayed by Jiruo's classmates. She timidly hid in Jiruo's tattered coat and quietly poked her head out to size up the crowd. The school leaders at the side were in disbelief, but the truth was right in front of them. They had no choice but to believe it. Moreover, they were happy that their student could return alive. Half an hour later, Liang Shixian saw that the students were not done chatting, so he smiled and said, all right, students. I know you're very happy and have a lot of things to ask, but now's not the time. Look at me and Jiruo, even if you don't think it's dirty, we do." Just as Liang Shixian had said, he and Jiruo looked very embarrassed at the moment. Their school uniforms were already tattered, their faces were black, their hair was messy, and even their shoes were nowhere to be seen. There were even large patches of dark red blood stains on their clothes, and their bodies were smelly. The two of them stood barefooted among the students, like beggars who had been besieged. No, they looked more like beggars now. Although Jiruo and Liang Shixian were living comfortably in the Myriad Beast Mountain's mystic realm, a mystic realm was still a mystic realm. After 7 days, the two of them were either running or eating. How could they have time to take a shower? Liang Shixian is right, Li Bindao said. Students, now is not the time to talk. What Jiruo and Liang Shixian need most now is rest. There's still a feast. When are we eating? Jiruo added. The surrounding people were stunned. What's there to eat? You've already set up the spirit altar for me and the class monitor. Aren't you going to eat? Jiruo asked in surprise. Was he not prepared? It can't be because the class monitor and I suddenly came out and cancelled it at the last minute, right? The surrounding people, The students were stunned for a moment before they burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha, Jiruo, you're really something. How can you eat your own food? Can't I eat it? The spiritual altar is already set up. Everyone laughed again. Amidst the laughter, the sorrowful and heavy atmosphere from before had long disappeared. P.S. Push this book, the link is below, the author is a big beauty. Chapter 72, Black Cat and White Cat 1. Chapter 72, Black Cat and White Cat 1. Jiruo felt a little regretful that they couldn't have a proper meal. The school's memorial service wasn't complete, and these things weren't prepared beforehand. Thinking about it, it made sense. A funeral should be a private matter. After handing over the watch, Li Bindao drove Jiruo home. Liang Shixian's parents had attended a memorial service at school before, but the memorial service was not held successfully. Therefore, Liang Shixian didn't follow Jiruo. Jiruo sat in the front passenger seat, and her eyelids began to droop. After returning to Great Xia, Jiruo's tensed heart finally relaxed. No matter how easy the martial exam was, he had not slept well for 7 days. Luo Qian nestled in Jiruo's arms and curiously looked at the scenery around her through the window. She thought, is this the human world? Student Jiruo, can you tell the teacher? Li Ben was halfway through his sentence when he suddenly saw Jiruo dozing off, his head nodding. He knew that Jiruo must have had a hard time in the secret realm for the past 7 days. Then, he remembered that all the students had been led back by their parents, and only Jiruo was holding a cat alone, planning to walk home. She felt a little sorry for this child who had persevered until the end. Li Bindao slowed down a little more so that Jiruo could take a nap. He knew where Jiruo's house was, and where all the students in the class lived. Li Bindao knew it very well because he was the homeroom teacher. Jiruo? Jiruo? Li Bindao gently shook Jiruo, who was already asleep. Oh. Jiruo opened his eyes in a daze. We're home. Ah, we're home. Thank you, teacher. I'll go back first. I'm really too sleepy, so I won't entertain you. Yes, it's okay. Jiruo carried Luo Qian out of the car. He was so sleepy that he could barely keep his eyes open. Looking at Jiruo's back as he walked into the corridor, Li Bindao suddenly said, "Classmate Jiruo." Ah. Jiruo looked back blankly. Teacher, is there anything else? Jiruo, can you come to school after you're done resting? Li Bindao asked hesitantly. The Mystic Realm martial examination system had already been abandoned. In the future, the new martial examination system would definitely be safer. However, because of the experience of this martial examination, many students had developed a serious resistance to the martial examination and even the path of martial arts. Teacher, can you please come back to school after you have a good rest and share your experience with Liang Shixian in the mythical realm with the students? It's not for anything else. I just hope that your experiences can give the students a rough understanding of what they should face when they embark on the path of martial arts. It can also help them make new judgments. It's a small problem. Jiruo waved his hand in a daze. Just wait and see how I perform, teacher. He didn't even know what he was talking about. This sleepiness was unusually strong for no reason. Li Bindao sighed as he watched Jiruo enter the corridor and drove away. Jiruo, who was still in a daze, didn't recognize the wrong house. He took out his house key from a crack in the wall and walked in with Luo Qian in his arms. His sleepiness was getting stronger and stronger, and now he only wanted to have a good sleep. He did not notice that Rosie's talent had become quality sleep plus at some point. Jiruo closed the door to the room and turned around. I'm so sleepy. He didn't even return to the bedroom before he fell asleep in the living room. Rosie reacted quickly and jumped down before the Jiruo fell. He tilted his head and looked a little confused. He didn't understand what had happened. A moment later, Luo Qian also felt inexplicably sleepy and fell asleep beside Ji. Where is this place? Rosie moved her short legs and walked in a white world. The place was empty and there was nothing. It was bare and white. Luo Qian was a little confused. She did not know why she had suddenly come to this place. Luo Qian, who was completely black, was the only color that was different in this white world. Rosie. Suddenly, an angry roar sounded, giving Rosie a fright. She subconsciously wanted to run, but before she could turn around, a black dot appeared at the end of her line of sight. The black dot rapidly expanded. No, it should be said to be close. In the blink of an eye, the black dot turned into a deep darkness. The darkness seemed to be as high as the sky and as wide as the earth. If the white world that Rosie was in was one world, then the darkness that was coming at her was another world. The two worlds were black and white, separated by an invisible border. In the darkness, there was a snow-white cat with a furious expression. Its snow-white claws were wrapped in darkness as it pierced into the white world and grabbed Luo Qian. Of course, it might not be appropriate to call it a scratch, because there was a black and white boundary between Rosie's body and the white cat's claws. In fact, they did not really touch. I gave you my body so that you can live well. But what have you been doing all this time? The white cat shook Rosie furiously. My injuries are so serious, and it's already very difficult for me to recover. Why are you still running to wherever it's dangerous? Do you know that I'm almost scared to death here? Rosie was dumbfounded. You, who are you? In fact, Rosie was not very brave. If it was any other time, she would have been scared to tears by the situation. But for some reason, she felt that this white cat was very familiar. It was a kind of familiarity that surpassed the level of bloodline. I am your sister. The white cat was still shaking Rosie. Every time I was about to sleep to recover, I sensed that you were in danger. Damn it, your injuries didn't improve at all. I just gave you a new talent. What the hell are you doing? No wonder the white cat was so angry. At that time, she was seriously injured and on the verge of death. She had no choice but to change her form and give her body to her sister who had the same body and different heart. She fell into a deep sleep and slowly recovered. However, every time she fell asleep, she would sense that her sister was in danger. She had no choice but to force herself to stay awake. What if she really fell asleep and couldn't wake up? If it wasn't for the fact that after the transformation, the white cat would have been killed by his sister. But even so, it was tiring to keep watching his sister's talent. The severely injured white cat was already in a bad mental state. It was torturous to not be able to rest and recover. Sister. Rosie was not sure if she really had a sister, but she instinctively did not think that the white cat would lie to her. LVE been playing around with Master recently. What kind of game can cause a fatal crisis? Wait. The white cat raised his voice, you silly cat. Tell me clearly, what Master? Rosie shrunk her neck. Master is Master. He's a human. He gave me delicious food, taught me how to sing, brought me to make friends, and even helped me make my baby more beautiful. He's so good to me. What treasure? Was it the moonlight mirror that I exchanged my life for? Master said that it's called the Vientiane mirror, Luo Jian said weakly. Chapter 73, Chapter 73, I have a huge feud with humans. 1. Chapter 73, I have a huge feud with humans. 1. Despicable human. Despicable human. The white cat roared in the dark world. Falsely accuse me. Hit me. You even lied to my sister. She flew into a rage and was so angry that she almost rose to the sky. When I recover, I will definitely go to the human world and eat all your fish. Damn it. He's too detestable. Little Rosie looked cutely at her sister's outburst. Even though the other party did not explain much, Rosie was already certain that the other party must be her sister. Ah. Sister, leave that human quickly. It's too dangerous. You've been in too much danger recently. I can't heal you properly. If they couldn't heal themselves, they wouldn't have the strength. If they didn't have the strength, they wouldn't be able to go to the human world. If they couldn't go to the human world, they wouldn't be able to eat all their fish. Damn it. Humans are so scheming. But little Rosie tilted her head. I'm already in the human world. Master brought me back. The white cat was stunned. Luo Jian continued, besides, it's not just fish. Sister, Master knows how to make a lot of delicious food. I've already eaten garlic grilled fish, honey roasted meat, spiritual fruit salad, ox demon hot pot. The white cat did not seem to understand the name of the food. Luo Jian thought for a moment. When she mentioned the various delicacies, she used her own way to describe Jiruo's cooking method and her own feelings. Grilled fish and roasted meat will first be marinated with some messy spiritual herbs and fruits. Those spiritual fruits are spicy, numb, salty. After processing, the grilled fish or roasted meat would become colorful and beautiful. Also, Master will use fire to roast the fish or meat. It's fragrant and delicious. There's also the meat. The skin of the meat looks golden and crispy, but the meat inside is tender. It tastes like meow, meow, meow. Although the two cats were not the same size, the white cat was bigger and was obviously an adult, while Rosie was just a little kitten that looked like it had just been born. But they were indeed sharing a body. Therefore, even though Luo Jian's description was somewhat abstract, the white cat could completely understand what Luo Jian meant. She could even imagine the specific taste from Luo Jian's description. As he listened, the white cat couldn't help but drool. Rosie did not seem to notice this and continued talking to herself. Master also said that when he comes back, he will make sweet and sour pork ribs, braised fish, kung pao chicken. Just by hearing the name, it was delicious. Sister, what's wrong? The white cat quickly wiped his saliva and pretended to be serious. Anyway, before I recover my strength, sister, don't go anywhere with that human. Safety first. Perhaps it was because Luo Jian's description had moved the white cat, but she didn't let Luo Jian leave Jiruo. But before she recovered her strength, she was still worried about Luo Jian following Jiruo around. Although she didn't know exactly what had happened earlier, the danger she vaguely felt in this mental space was enough to scare her to death. He was on tenterhooks every day. Sister, you have to give me some time to recover. Otherwise, it's not safe for us to go anywhere, the white cat said earnestly. Rosie said apologetically, I'm sorry, sister. I didn't know about this. I've caused you trouble. You want to recover? I have some flesh and blood essence here that I haven't digested yet. Can I give it to you? The white cat felt a warmth in his heart and said with a smile, keep that bit of flesh and blood essence of yours for yourself. The difference between us is too great. What's enough for meow meow meow? The white cat was stunned when he sensed the unusually thick essence of flesh and blood that Luo Jian had transmitted to him. The high quality of these flesh and blood essences probably came from 3-star demon beasts and above. The white cat could even sense a familiar aura from the flesh. 3-star Quay, 3-star red-tailed python, 4-star moon-swallowing toad. Sister, you, where did you eat these things? The white cat was shocked. Luo Jian did not hide anything and said, Master made it for me. I originally wanted to keep it to slowly digest and advance, but you couldn't sleep well because of me. You even secretly helped me change my talent to solve the problem. I feel sorry for you. If you want it, you can take it. Anyway, before we left, Aunt Jinglin and Grandpa Shenmue gave us a lot of good things. They are all stored in the Wanxiang mirror. Master said that he would use these things to make delicacies in the future. Rosie gradually became familiar with the rules of this world. She projected some of her memories into the white world to let the white cat see her life after having a master. The white cat could not help but swallow his saliva as he felt the fragrance and wonderful taste transmitted from those memories. What kind of cat demon could resist such temptation? Sister, Rosie said, go to sleep after you've absorbed these essences. I'll tell Master to be careful. I'm not sleeping, the white cat said hurriedly. She thought to herself, why are we still sleeping? The recovery speed of her slumber was too slow. Not only would the recovery speed be very fast after absorbing the essence of the flesh and blood, but her strength would also increase because of it. Why was he still sleeping? Sister. You must eat more in the future and build a good relationship with that human, the white cat said seriously. Our future depends on you. Little sister, you have to help me take revenge and eat the humans. I can't eat much. I'll help you with the digestion. Sister, I'm doing this for your own good, the white cat said seriously. When I recover my strength, our master will bring you to do something else. It'll be safer with me around. The simple-minded white cat had even changed his address to our master. Living in Myriad Beast Mountain, he was always on tenterhooks. Now, he saw his sister living so comfortably under the care of humans. The white cat was also tempted. Isn't it just having another master? Admit it. All right, Rosie said in confusion. I'll go back and tell master to cook more in the future. Yes, wait a minute. No. The white cat seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly said, you can't expose my existence, I have a grudge against humans. What grudge? The white cat said regretfully, if I had known that humans could eat so well, I wouldn't have done it in the first place. Sister, there was a human who accused me without any reason, attacked me, and almost killed me. If I hadn't activated the earth-overturning dragon pearl to escape at the critical moment, I'm afraid that the two of us sisters wouldn't have had the chance to chat here. At that time, I used the earth-overturning dragon pearl to control the earth vein and sensed that there were many humans in the Myriad Beast Mountain. I thought to myself, with so many humans coming to the Myriad Beast Mountain, they must be doing something important. Moreover, that human also falsely accused me, saying that I messed up the earth veins at the foot of the mountain. I can't tolerate this. Back then, that human treated me so badly and almost killed me. Therefore, when I was escaping, I used the earth vein to move those humans to the exit of the Myriad Beast Mountain in a fit of anger, destroying all their arrangements. Those humans' plans were ruined by me. Now, they must hate me to the core. Sister, you must not tell the humans about our relationship. Otherwise, they will definitely kill us. The expression on the white cat's face was extremely complicated. Regret, nervousness, panic. If she couldn't live a happy life in the future because of this, she would definitely regret it. No, he absolutely could not expose himself. Rosie was also a little scared. She shook her little head like a rattle drum. Elle won't say it. I definitely won't tell. Yes, you must remember. The white cat said seriously, in the future, I won't sleep anymore. I'll specially change your talent. You have to be careful and build a good relationship with our master. That way, he'll make all kinds of good food and drinks for you in the future. Sister, do you want to come out and eat some too? Master's food is delicious. I want to, the white cat said bitterly. But I have a huge grudge against humans. Sister, I can only rely on you. The next morning, Jiruo woke up slowly and stretched. Woo, I slept so well. Only then did he realize that he had fallen asleep on the living room floor yesterday. Heh, you didn't even sleep in your bed. It seems like you're really exhausted. However, the quality of her sleep yesterday seemed to be surprisingly good. Jiruo did not feel uncomfortable at all and was unusually energetic. Meow dash, master, you're awake. Jiruo turned around and found little Luo Qian looking at him nervously. She wanted to say something but hesitated. Yes, I'm awake. What's wrong, little Rosie? Is there anything you want to tell me? Jiruo smiled and rubbed the cat's head. Meow. Meow. Rosie became even more nervous. No, no. Master, I'm definitely not hiding anything from you. Jiruo. He subconsciously checked Rosie's talent. Talent, superior sleep plus. Jiruo was stunned for a moment, and then he understood why he had fallen asleep on the floor. Rubbing Luo Qian's head, Jiruo said, don't worry, master won't blame you. Meow dash, really? Rosie was pleasantly surprised. Yes. Jiruo smiled and stood up. Wait for me to take a shower. I'll make you something delicious. He didn't feel it when he was in the Myriad Beast Mountain, but now that he was back home, Jiruo really felt that he was dirty and smelly. It was unbearable. Meow dash, 0k, thank you, master. P.S. Push this book link below. Chapter 74, title, Soul Singer. 1. Chapter 74, title, Soul Singer. 1. Jiruo went to take a shower. Luo Qian squatted at the door and listened to the sound of water in the bathroom. She closed her eyes slightly and returned to the world of black and white. Sister, Master said that he doesn't blame us. After Master bathes, he will cook delicious food for us. Sister, why don't you come out and eat? The white cat was tempted. However, she did not agree to Rosie's request. Instead, she endured her heartache and said, forget it, little sister. I won't go out. Perhaps this is a test our master is giving you. It's better if you don't come here to look for me in the future, lest our master finds out. All right then. In the bathroom, Jiruo was carefully cleaning her body. In these 7 days, he did not have the chance to properly clean up his personal hygiene. He casually rinsed his body with water, and the filth on his body flowed down with the water. This is too dirty. Looking at the thick mud under his feet, Jiruo sighed. While washing up, he organized his gains from this martial examination. First of all, with the supply of a large number of high-grade ingredients, Jiruo's iron palm had already reached the acme of perfection, and his proficiency was almost half. Normally speaking, reaching the acme of perfection was the highest level that a martial technique could reach. The iron palm was only a low-level martial technique. Even if it had reached the acme of perfection, it would only increase its temperature and hardness. Jiruo was curious about what would happen if he maxed out the proficiency of iron palm. Then, there were all kinds of achievements, skills, and titles. Absolute sense of direction's correction rate had not changed. Although Jiruo had used this ability many times in the Mountain of 10,000 Beasts, his correction rate had not increased at all. Jiruo felt that he might have fallen into some kind of misunderstanding. Since this achievement was triggered by throwing a shoe to ask for directions, then it was normal for his correction rate not to increase since he did not throw a shoe later. There was also the saber and sword duality buff, which was still at the beginner level. He probably needed to cut grass to level it up. As for the other skills, such as camouflage and substitution, he had made some progress. There was also punch-in. All attributes of the characteristic increased by 20%, and the photo of the cherry blossoms falling from the snow on the mountain had provided most of the increase. At that time, Jiruo was very happy. He thought that the amplification effect would increase by a few times, but it was only this little. It seemed that the background was also very important in the judgment of the characteristics amplification. After checking all the abilities he had, Jiruo suddenly had an idea. The martial arts examination had ended and it was the holidays. Jiruo felt that he should take advantage of this time to level up his various abilities. He wanted to see if he could trigger a few more achievements. After spending about half an hour, Jiruo Ki washed away the dirt on her body and then began to apply shampoo and body wash. The young man subconsciously brushed his hair that was covered in shampoo to the back of his head. The foam on his hands was curled up by the young man, and his palm was clenched as if he was holding a microphone. Oh, 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 I love bathing, so many bubbles. The young man sang in an intoxicated manner, enjoying this moment of peace. Hence dash. Congratulations to the host for unlocking the function, he sang loudly in the shower. Obtained title, Soul Singer. Soul Singer, empathy, song's emotion rendering effect increased by 40%, King of Souls, when certain conditions are met, the user can use the song to trigger the power in the depths of the listener's soul. Remark, music is the best medicine for the soul, and singing is the common language of all living beings. Remark, the song has to be suitable for the scene. Remark, good child, use our voice to make the world dance. Jiruo's mood was getting better and better. Suddenly, a large amount of bubbles appeared in the bathroom and enveloped Jiruo's entire body. Was this the power of I love to bathe so many bubbles? Jiruo was pleasantly surprised. He started playing with bubbles. He casually grabbed a piece of foam and rubbed it in his palm. After a moment, he opened his palm and a bubble that occupied the youth's entire palm suddenly appeared. Spicy God dried. Jiruo slapped the bubble against the wall and it shattered with a soft sound. Congratulations to the host for triggering the martial arts achievement, Eat My Spiral Ball. Acquired martial skill, Spiral Pill, Palm Technique Beginner. Remark, Spicy Dried God. Jiruo laughed, his left and right hands alternating, creating bubbles one after another, hitting the wall. As Jiruo kept moving, the bubbles in the bathroom increased, almost filling the entire bathroom. Meow. Still not done? I'm hungry. Luo Qian's voice came from outside the door, waking Jiruo up from his happy meatball exercise. He had been showering for an hour. I'll be right there, Jiruo said as he began to wash himself. He thought about the special effects of the title Soul Singer and thought that if it was that song, it should be able to help him wash up faster, and it would be very clean. So Jiruo sang loudly, swish, 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 swish. Outside the bathroom, little Luo Qian had the urge to dance as she listened to Jiruo singing. She also wanted to wash something. The cheerful music style and simple lyrics were exceptionally suitable for the occasion. Combined with Jiruo's substitution, it allowed Jiruo to bring himself into it, triggering some kind of power hidden in the depths of Jiruo's soul. It was very clean. Jiruo was washing his hair. He thought that the filth on his head had been washed away. However, with the help of the song, large patches of black stains were rubbed out by Jiruo, flowing down to his feet along the water and foam. This title is really not bad. Jiruo thought happily and rubbed harder. After a while, Jiruo saw that he couldn't rub anything dirty anymore, so he turned on the shower to rinse off the foam. How comfortable. His palm was slightly hot, and he activated his iron palm. Full concentration breath wind paired with iron palm made Jiruo's palm blow hot air. He stroked his head, and his wet hair instantly became dry. Jiruo changed into clean clothes and walked out of the bathroom. Luo Qian looked at Jiruo in a daze. Hee, clean, right. Wait a minute, I'll get you something to eat. Wait, can't you take food from the Wanxiang mirror? Why don't you eat some first? Little Luo Qian rubbed her face against Jiruo's pants and said, Meow dash, one prefer to eat what you just made, Master 9. Jiruo smiled and was about to bend down to pick up Rosie and place her on her head as usual when she suddenly thought of a very serious problem. Rosie, you need to shower too. Chapter 75, Chapter 75, Chi Meridians Bifurcated. Chapter 75, Chi Meridians Bifurcated. Dirty cats can't eat delicious food. Jiruo said seriously. He had already washed up, but Rosie was still dirty. Although black was more resistant to dirt and was not easy to tell, she was still dirty. Who knew that when Luo Qian heard Jiruo telling her to take a shower, she suddenly shrank back in fear. Meow. Meow. I don't want to shower. I'm not taking a shower. I don't want to turn white. How can I not shower? Jiruo frowned. Only a good child who loves cleanliness. Jiruo suddenly realized something was wrong. Wait, what turned white? Jiruo's expression changed as he realized the possibility. He quickly turned around and returned to the bathroom. There was a mirror on the sink, but Jiruo had taken too long to wash. The mirror was already covered in mist and he could not see anything clearly. Jiruo raised his hand to wipe away the mist, and was instantly stunned. The young man in the mirror was as bright and handsome as ever. Jiruo's temperament had even improved to a certain extent because he had broken through to the Chi Meridian realm. Of course, it would have been even more perfect without that eye-catching white hair. Why is it so obvious? Jiruo scratched his head in shock, and the person in the mirror did the same. So that black dirty water wasn't dirty. Jiruo had a toothache. At the same time, he also had a more direct understanding of the so-called triggering the power deep in the soul of the Soul Singer title. Damn it, when the Soul King's special effect was triggered, even his hair could be washed off. Rosie came to the bathroom door timidly. Meow doesn't want to bathe, Rosie is very clean. Jiruo turned around and saw that Luo Qian's fur had turned black and soft again. It even emitted a faint fragrance. In the pet details, Rosie's talent had changed to talent, cleansing, body. Fragrance. Jiruo scratched his head. Alright, if you don't want to shower, then don't. He looked at himself in the mirror again. Not to mention, he was quite handsome with a head full of white hair. After making breakfast with the high-end ingredients stored in the Vientiane mirror, Jiruo went back to her room and took out her phone to charge it. During the martial examination, the use of mobile phones was not prohibited, but ordinary mobile phones did not have any signal in Myriad Beast Mountain, so it was useless to bring them along. Jiruo might as well not bring them along. 7 days had passed, and Jiruo's phone had been turned off because it ran out of battery. When his phone was almost fully charged, Jiruo turned on his phone. Ignoring the fact that his classmates had been spontaneously launching a check-in activity on their social media accounts because they thought that he had died in Myriad Beast Mountain, Jiruo started reading the news. In the first few days, the news was filled with all kinds of negative reports. By the evening of the second day, all the secret realm teleportation devices that could be used in Great Xia were already overloaded. They could not send more people into Myriad Beast Mountain. They could only pass through the secret plane's door. The secret realm teleportation device was not something that had existed since the beginning. In fact, a large part of the reason why the Myriad Beast Mountain could become the martial examination trial venue was because it could set up the secret realm teleportation device there. Speaking of which, why does the teleportation method of that teleportation device look a little familiar? Jiruo felt like he had seen something similar somewhere. However, he had returned too quickly, so Jiruo didn't see it clearly. Back to the main topic. At that time, some people were already in despair. They felt that this martial examination was definitely the biggest loss since the implementation of the Mystic Realm martial examination system. Who knew how many children would die in the Mystic Realm? The path of martial arts had yet to open, but it had already ushered in the end. After the secret plane's teleportation device failed, the Great Xia officials decided to send troops into the Myriad Beast Mountain through the secret plane's entrance. These troops were originally prepared to use the secret plane's teleportation device to enter the secret plane, but unfortunately, the teleportation device failed before they could teleport many people. A large number of martial artist armies gathered at the entrance of the Mystic Realm, but before they could enter, an accident happened again. On the third day, for some unknown reason, the 10,000 Beast Mountain's earth vein once again underwent a large-scale change. And this time, almost all the examines and surviving patrolling martial artists were transported to the Mystic Realm's entrance. The army gathered outside the Mystic Realm effortlessly brought back those examines and patrolling martial artists. The third day was when the class monitor and I were sent to the mountainside. Jiruo stroked his chin. Who could have teleported most of the examines and patrolling martial artists to the exit of the Mystic Realm? Rosie froze. He was shouting in his heart, "El found it! I found it! Master discovered me! Endure!" He couldn't be exposed. Luo Qian buried her head in Jiruo's arms and meowed meaninglessly. Jiruo was in a good mood and continued to watch the news. After 7 days, there was only one piece of good news on the third day of the martial examination. After that, Jiruo saw an interesting post. The Mystic Realm martial examination system has been abolished. How should the new martial examination be carried out? Jiruo clicked on this news and listed the pros and cons of the secret realm martial examination system. Jiruo felt that some of his views were quite reasonable. First of all, the Mystic Realm martial examination system had been implemented for more than 150 years. It was undeniable that although the system had an average annual mortality rate of 3%, the effect was really good. Jiruo, who had been to the Myriad Beast Mountain himself, knew that it was not just a breakthrough in the realm from the martial apprentice to the Qi Pulse realm. There was also a change in mentality. Martial artists needed to press forward courageously. Martial arts was the path of protection and also the path of courage. In order to open up the meridians, one needed to have a strong will that could pierce through the shackles at a certain moment. Human nature was complicated. Under normal circumstances, very few people would be able to have this kind of intention. However, in the Myriad Beast Mountain, when faced with a life and death crisis, it was not difficult to condense this kind of intention. Moreover, the Mystic Realm was filled with treasures. In addition to the existence of patrolling martial artists, the examines were not only taking the exam, but they were also using that environment to grow rapidly. Therefore, the Mystic Realm martial examination system still had its merits. Unfortunately, this accident happened. Jiruo's finger slid. Due to unknown reasons, the space-time of the Mystic Realm is in disorder. Aureate Body Realm martial artists will not be able to enter again for the time being. The Secretary of Education, Gu Xingzhou, has lost contact with the Myriad Beast Mountain secret realm. The rescue operation has reached a bottleneck. The Secretary of Education, Gu Xingzhou, has returned and resigned. Gu Xingzhou, I will use the rest of my life to atone for my sins. The number of deaths and the name list for this martial examination. Swiping to the bottom of the news page, Jiruo's fingers paused for a moment before he clicked on it. In this martial examination, the death toll of the examines was less than 1% of the reference number, but the death toll was as high as 70,000. The ones who died the most were the patrolling martial artists. The education department only discovered the problem half a day after the examination began. However, there were some people who were in the examination hall a few days before the examination. Patrol and test martial artists. They were the first to discover the problem and immediately protected all the examines within their inspection range. If there was any danger, the patrolling martial artists would always rush to the front. More than 70,000 people died in this martial examination, of which more than 60,000 were patrolling martial artists. The number of deaths in this martial examination was the lowest in history. In every martial examination, the number of patrolling martial artists was 1/10 of the examines. In other words, a patrolling martial artist had to be responsible for at least 10 students. The number of examines exceeded 1 million, which meant that the number of patrolling martial artists was more than 100,000. But even so, more than 60,000 patrolling martial artists had died. Sensing that Jiruo was not in a good mood, Luo Jian was a little puzzled. I'm fine. Jiruo took a deep breath and adjusted his emotions. He saved the long list at the end of the news on his phone and then opened a communication app. Looking at the messages from his classmates, Jiruo replied to them one by one. After replying, Jiruo took a deep breath and began to practice martial arts. There was no shortcut to martial arts cultivation. Training in winter and summer was not just for show. Spirit plants and demon beast flesh could only make martial artists run faster in martial arts cultivation, but not directly erase the process of hard work. Steam rose from the top of Jiruo's head. Jiruo was stunned as he practiced. The Beiwei appointment on the top of his head opened and closed as he breathed in spiritual energy. The meridians in the young man's body that had just opened up not long ago had split. Chapter 76, Chapter 76, UVE already agreed. Chapter 76, UVE already agreed. The opening of the Chi meridians was the first development of the human body by a warrior. A warrior could rely on the Chi meridians to absorb the spiritual Chi of heaven and earth. While cleansing the body, it could also allow their martial arts to display some special effects. Normally, there were 5 Chi meridians, namely the Beiwei point on the top of the head, the Logong point on the palm, and the Yongquan point on the sole of the foot. When a martial artist opened up 5 meridians, these special meridians that didn't originally exist could be connected into a hole in the human body. According to Jiruo's understanding, the dissection of the meridians was roughly equivalent to the stickman. At that time, the power of blood essence would be able to flow through his entire body. A few geniuses could open 6 or even 7 meridians, connecting the lower danshan and even the upper danshan. Generally speaking, a Chi meridian was a Chi meridian that went straight and finally converged at the Shanzhong appointment. Jiruo's situation was a little complicated. He was now a martial artist of the same lineage, unlike normal martial artists who only had one meridian. He had the more is good, big is strong talent. The thickness of his Chi meridian was several times that of an ordinary person's, and it was even split. Apart from the main meridian from the Beiwei appointment to the Tanzong appointment on the chest, there were also densely packed branch meridians that were distributed in a radiating manner. It was like the countless branches of a large river, or the huge roots of a large tree. Jiruo even suspected that other than the blessing of his innate talent, the reason why his Chi meridians had split was because he had rubbed too hard in the shower just now. Otherwise, even if it was going to split, it would not have split so quickly. Why is there a fork? Jiruo scratched his head and made a comparison. The current him seemed to be much stronger than the martial artists in the Chi meridian realm described in the textbooks. Normal Chi meridian realm martial artists had to reach 5 meridians to be able to circulate their power throughout their entire body. Jiruo could do it now. When he reached 5 meridians, he would probably be able to circulate all his meridians. Meow dash, master, what's wrong? What split? It's okay. It's not a bad thing. Jiruo didn't explain further. He picked up Luo Jian and said, let's go and take a look at the class monitor. He should be undergoing surgery today. Meow dash, 0k, okay. A man and a cat went out. Jiruo's head of white hair attracted the attention of passers-by. If Liang Shixian wanted to have surgery, the First People's Hospital of the city was definitely the most likely place. After all, Liang Shixian's iron shirt had already reached the advanced level, and he had eaten so many good things. He was not far from mastering it, so his defense was not weak. He had also reached the Meridian realm, and ordinary doctors really did not have the ability to perform surgery on him. The Meridian realm had a protective aura shield. Liang Shixian's defense could be broken with a chainsaw, but what kind of doctor would use a chainsaw during surgery? Dr. Gu. Of course, Jiruo had also called to confirm. Liang Shixian's father answered the call. He was indeed having surgery at the First People's Hospital of the city. Meow dash, are we here, master? Yes, I'm going to the system. Jiruo put Luo Jian down from her head. Rosie, the hospital doesn't allow pets in. Wait for me here. He placed Rosie at the entrance of the hospital. As a cat, Jian could not be admitted to the hospital. Meow dash, 0k. Rosie obediently squatted by the roadside, looking just like a normal cat. However, only Jiruo knew that the moment this little guy was put down, his talent had become 9. They were tenacity, malice perception, illusion, strong, swift, lightness, catapult, limb enhancement, silence. Amongst them, silence was targeted at the user and could greatly reduce the sound produced by the user. Swiftness, lightness, catapult, and limb enhancement were used to escape. Tenacity was used to withstand beatings, Johnson was used to strengthen vitality, malicious perception was used to identify if the surrounding people had malicious intentions towards them, and illusion was used to reduce their presence. Jiruo had taken her to several hospitals today. Every time, Luo Jian would be like this. Her life-saving talent was full and she was extremely cautious. But thinking about it, it made sense. This little fellow was a demon beast after all. When it came to the human world, it naturally had to be careful when it was alone. Just as she was about to enter the elevator, a boy rushed out from the stairwell with his head lowered. Jiruo did not pay attention to him. Jiruo got into the elevator. 3 minutes later, Jiruo arrived outside Liang Shixian's ward. Mrs. Liang sat by the bed and peeled an apple. The fruit knife in her hand flew up and down like a butterfly flying through a flower. The peel she peeled was as thin as a cicada's wing. It was obvious that she was using an exquisite fruit knife technique. Jiruo vaguely remembered that Liang Shixian's mother was once a military doctor. With a slight movement of his wrist, the saber and sword duality buff took effect. Jiruo learned this surgical knife technique in the blink of an eye. Class monitor, are you done with the surgery? Jiruo pushed open the door and entered, saying politely, hello, uncle and auntie. Liang Shixian heard Jiruo's voice and looked up in surprise. Jiruo, you come. Before he could finish, the family of 3 was stunned. If. Your hair. Liang Shixian was a little hesitant because he had just finished the operation. His face was a little pale, but it was not as white as Jiruo's hair. Classmate Jiruo, hello. Father Liang obviously didn't expect Jiruo, whom he had just met yesterday, to have a head full of white hair today. He smiled a little reluctantly. Uncle was just about to call and ask where you were. Mother Liang smiled awkwardly. Young man, you have some personality. It's quite good. They thought that Jiruo had dyed her hair halfway. Dad, Mom, can I talk to Jiruo alone? Liang Shixian asked as he leaned against the bed. The husband and wife were stunned for a moment. Then, Father Liang smiled and said, it's only right. You young people have more common language. The presence of the 2 of us will make you feel restrained at ease. Shixian, have a good chat with Jiruo. I'll go out with your mother. Then, the couple left the ward, leaving Jiruo and Liang Shixian alone. Jiruo sat down beside the bed and asked, class monitor, how do you feel? Pretty good. By the way, didn't Rosie come with you? She's here, but the hospital doesn't allow pets to come in. I asked her to wait at the entrance of the hospital. Rosie is so small, Liang Shixian said unhappily. You don't trust her to wait for you outside alone. Jiruoxin thought that with Luo Jian's ability to automatically refresh her points and increase her talent, she didn't need to worry too much. Don't worry about her. How many appendixes did you take out this time? Liang Shixian was stunned. Class president, don't you have 2 appendixes? Why only 1? The new appendix isn't even sick, he said unhappily. Why would I cut it out when I have nothing better to do? That seems to be the case too. After a pause, Liang Shixian hesitated and said tactfully, Jiruo, although you're already in the Chi Pulse realm, martial arts cultivation is not something that can be done overnight. We can't slack off. I know you might like to stand out a little, but some fancy things are not good for martial arts cultivation. In other words, he felt that Jiruo shouldn't waste his money and time on things like dyeing his hair. Jiruo naturally understood what Liang Shixian meant and suddenly said seriously, class monitor, do you believe me? Liang Shixian was stunned for a moment, wondering if Jiruo had any other difficulties. After the martial examination, he and Jiruo had become friends who had gone through life and death together. Seeing Jiruo so serious, he subconsciously became serious. Of course I do. Jiruo, your hair, could it be? That's right. Jiruo nodded seriously. I washed my hair this morning. I didn't expect a Chi Meridian realm martial artist to have such strength. So it's like him. Liang Shixian's face, which was originally pale because of the surgery, suddenly darkened. He said angrily, my surgery is to cut off my abdomen, not my head. I'm telling the truth. All right. Liang Shixian was a little regretful. After living together for 7 days, he thought that he had a certain immunity to Jiruo's thoughtlessness, but now it seemed that he still could not adapt to Jiruo's brain circuit very well. Let's get down to business. Liang Shixian looked at Jiruo and said, what do you plan to do about the matter old Ban mentioned yesterday? My dad asked me today, but I didn't tell them the details. I only gave them a general idea and didn't expose anything. Their experiences in the martial examination were not suitable to be used as a reference for others. It wasn't even appropriate to tell others who would believe that the martial arts examination, which was filled with danger, was like an outing. What's old Ban talking about? Jiruo was stunned. Do you want to eat? Liang Shixian was also stunned. Last night, old Ban sent me a message to tell me that you've already agreed. I agreed to do it? Jiruo was confused. What did he agree to? Chapter 77, Life and Death on the Line. Chapter 77, Life and Death on the Line. You don't know. Liang Shixian was puzzled. But old Ban clearly said that you agreed immediately. Of course I know. Jiruo said guiltily. He vaguely remembered that it was Li Bindao who sent him home yesterday. He did seem to have said something to him, but he was too tired at that time and was affected by Luo Qian's ability, so he was very sleepy. He had an impression of Li Bindao talking to him, but he couldn't remember what exactly he said. However, since Li Bindao had already told Liang Shixian that he had agreed, it was probably not a bad thing to say that he had agreed. Thinking about it carefully, what would his teacher usually ask him to do in such a situation? Jiruo now knew that none of the students in the class had stayed for too long in this martial arts exam. In the entire grade 12 class 4, or even the entire grade, only he and Liang Shixian had persisted until the end. In that case, could it be that old Ban wanted him and Liang Shixian to share their learning experience with the students? It was like asking the students in the class to learn from the students with good grades after every exam. That made sense. It must be so. Thinking of this, Jiruo smiled and said, "Of course I know what it is. I was just teasing you, class monitor. Don't worry, I'm already prepared. When the time comes, class monitor, just watch my performance." "All right." Liang Shixian nodded and reminded, "But Jiruo, you have to be careful. You should know what you can and can't say. Don't let it slip." Calling the tree demon his brother, teaching the wind god falcon martial arts, and trading with the demons were all things that could not be told to outsiders. Once the news spread, no matter what Jiruo's original intention was, it would be used as an excuse to attack Jiruo. Especially since many patrolling martial artists had died in this martial examination, the social atmosphere was a little depressing. "Class monitor, don't worry." Liana Shixian couldn't help but complain, "I'm the one who's worried about you. What's your plan? What do you plan to say? Tell me about it first. Don't let it slip." At this moment, Liang Shixian was like a naughty child who was conspiring with Jiruo to deceive his teacher. "There's no rush. I'll give you a surprise." He already had a rough idea. "All right, then I'll make an appointment with old Ban. There are still some remnants of the body fruit in my body. It shouldn't take long for me to recover. How about we meet old Ban in 3 days? After saying goodbye to Liang Shixian's family, Jiruo took Luo Qian shopping. "Meow, what are you doing?" Luo Qian asked in confusion. At this moment, Jiruo Chen had his hands at his sides and was slowly walking forward with a serious expression. Every step he took happened to land on the long and straight white line under his feet. Luo Qian felt very bored and didn't know what Jiruo was doing. "Luo Qian, don't say anything. We're in danger," Jiruo said seriously. Luo Qian's expression changed. Her sister did not sense any danger, but since Jiruo said so, there must be some rules in the human world that the sisters did not know about, right? Thus, his talent instantly turned into 9, and his life-saving ability was instantly maxed out. "Meow, where are the enemies?" "There are no enemies," Jiruo said seriously. "But we can't leave the line under our feet. The line is safe, but once we step on it, we will be doomed." Luo Qian was shocked. In the spiritual space, the white cat thought, the human world was indeed dangerous. The young man who was passing by couldn't help but roll his eyes when he heard Jiruo's words. This white-haired youth didn't look young anymore. Why was he still so childish? There was even a cat on his head. What kind of weird hobby was this? However, the kitten was quite cute. 10 minutes later, Jiruo arrived at an intersection with a nervous Luo Qian on his head. The white line under his feet was broken. Rosie panicked. "What should we do? The line is broken. There's no road ahead. What should I do? What should I do? This is the best we can do. Damn it. Then we'll leave tomorrow." Jiruo walked away from the white line with a regretful expression and walked towards the park. This was his destination. Congratulations to the host for triggering the martial arts achievement, Life and Death. Acquired martial art characteristic, Intuition. Intuition, when encountering danger, you can use your intuition to find a chance of survival and construct a rough route. Remark, be careful, the places outside the line are very dangerous, don't fall. Remark, a line of vitality, true, only a line, just a line, eh? Luo Qian, who realized that she had been deceived, ruffled Jiruo's hair angrily. Jiruo ignored her and looked around the park for a while. Her eyes lit up as she found the target of her trip. It was a gardener who was mowing the lawn with a weeding machine. Jiruo carried Luo Qian to the back of the cleaning lady and said, "Hello, auntie. My name is Jiruo." "Child, what's the matter?" The cleaner looked back in confusion. When she saw Jiruo's white hair, her voice subconsciously lowered. "It's like this. I'm this year's martial arts exam. The martial arts examination has ended. I have nothing to do at home, so I wanted to come out and do something meaningful. Want to help you weed, can I? Jiruo scratched his head. Martial arts examines. The gardener was stunned for a moment. She looked at the white hair on Jiruo's head with some hesitation and then suddenly understood. It's possible. The gardener naturally knew what had happened during the martial examination. After all, almost the entire Great Xia was talking about this matter. Be it on the internet or in the neighborhood, everyone was talking about it. It was difficult not to know. Therefore, when the gardener found out that Jiruo was a martial arts examinee, her first reaction was that Jiruo was probably the kind of child who was lucky enough to not be injured but was greatly stimulated. After a moment of hesitation, the gardener said, "Child, if there's anything you feel uncomfortable about, you can tell me. Although I'm not very cultured, I've lived longer than you. Auntie, I really want to help you. I think it's quite hard for you to be in charge of such a big park alone, right? It just so happens that I have nothing to do. It's not just me. I still have 2 old sisters working over there. Moreover, we're rotating. We work 8 hours a day. Tell me if you want me to mow the lawn." The gardener thought for a moment and said, "If you really want to do it, there are still spare weeding machines at our station." Jiruo laughed. "It's fine as long as you agree. I don't need the weeding machine. I have my own." As he spoke, Jiruo pulled out a straight wooden stick from behind him. "Auntie, you should rest first. I'll help you with the work." With that, the cat rushed out with a wooden stick in hand. The gardener auntie. Was this child really here to help? Seeing Jiruo happily beating the weeds with a wooden stick, the gardener sighed and pushed the weeding machine to continue her work. In the middle of the park, a small figure was passing through the piles. Suddenly, the figure stopped and fell down before it could jump onto the next pile. "It hurts." He fell heavily to the ground, and tears were about to flow out of his eyes. The people of Great Xia revered martial arts, and the sports facilities in the park were naturally not ordinary space strolls. Plum Blossom Dome, Stone Lock, Iron Man Dome, Sandbag, large water tank, these were the standard features of the park. "Child, rest for a while. You've been practicing all morning." An old man beside him couldn't help but say, "Martial arts should be practiced step by step. It's useless to be anxious for success. Besides, at your age, you don't have to train yourself with such high intensity, right? You're not my person. Why should you care about me?" The boy, whose face was already swollen from the fall, stood up. He was young, but his words were not polite at all. "Hey." The old man was also unhappy. "How rude." The old man beside him pulled the old man who was about to roll up his sleeves and said, forget it, forget it. If he doesn't want to listen, then so be it. You're already so old. Why are you fussing over a child?" The boy glanced at the stone lock at the side, hesitated for a moment, then turned around and climbed up the quincunx pile again. The few elders no longer cared about the boy and started talking to themselves. "By the way, why isn't old Zhang here today? Don't mention him. Old Zhang's grandson participated in the martial examination this time. The child is still alive, but he's missing an arm. Old Zhang doesn't have the mood to come out and hang around." "Oh, that's really. Speaking of which, the losses this time are too great." "That's right. More than 60,000 patrolling martial artists died. Sigh, so many lives? Fortunately, not many examines died. Otherwise, not many died, but I heard that there were quite a number of people who were injured. Those children clearly have a bright future." Sigh. The few elders sighed, and the atmosphere was a little heavy. Bang. Suddenly, the sound of a heavy object falling to the ground came from the pile again. The boy fell down again, but this time, he didn't cry out in pain. He climbed up the Plum Blossom Dome again. Chapter 78, Self-Cultivation, Strengthening the Body, Cleaning, a must-have for home and travel. Chapter 78, Self-Cultivation, Strengthening the Body, Cleaning, a must-have for home and travel. In the afternoon. Small plan. The gardener auntie held 2 apples in her hands and shouted at Jiruo, who was still playing on the lawn, "Auntie brought some fruits. Take a rest first." After a few hours, Jiruo and the gardener got to know each other. The auntie's surname was Lu, and her name was Lu Jinshun. "It's okay, Auntie Lu. I'm not tired." Saying so, Jiruo rushed out again, waving the wooden stick in his hand, smashing down patches of weeds one after another. It was extremely efficient. Luo Qian wasn't with Jiruo and went to the park to play. Lu Jinshun looked at Jiruo who was having fun and couldn't help but sigh. It's good to be young. In the beginning, she thought that Jiruo had suffered some kind of trauma during the martial arts examination, which was why he came to the park to vent his anger, and that helping out was just an excuse. But now, Lu Jinchun looked down at the grass under his feet. The grass that Jiruo had broken with a stick was even smoother than the grass that she had pushed off with a weeding machine. It was as if Jiruo wasn't holding a wooden stick, but a sharp sword. Jiruo was naturally not tired. He looked at the proficiency of the sword and sword duality buff rising and felt satisfied. Why would he feel tired? However, it was indeed a little late. He had brought Rosie out in the morning, and it was almost dark now. Auntie, it's getting late. It's about time for me to go home. Ah, thank you, little John. Lu Jinchun was a little dazed. This child had really helped her with the day's work, and his efficiency was much higher than what she did on her own. Looking at the genuine smile on Jiruo's face and the pure happiness on it, Lu Jinchun seemed to be infected and his mood improved a lot. What a good child. She thought that such a good child should not have dyed his hair because he was agitated during the martial examination. Maybe it was a personal hobby. This praise was sincere, so the progress of sincere praise from an elder increased by one again. It's nothing, it's just what I should do. Jiruo smiled. See you tomorrow, auntie. I'll come and help again tomorrow. Are you still coming tomorrow? Lu Jinchun was all smiles. How long had it been since he had seen such a good child? She smiled and teased, since you're helping me so much, why don't I give you a portion of my salary? Look, you're doing much better than auntie. No need, no need. It's voluntary labor. If you're happy, I'm happy too. What money? Reality proved that Jiruo's plan was feasible. Today, Jiruo's sword and sword duality buff had almost reached the second level, and even sincere praise from the elders had reached 4/10. His gains were not small. Normally, there were about 15 days between the end of the martial examination and the start of the freshman year. Although there was an accident in the martial examination this time and the Mystic Realm martial examination system was abolished, it was still uncertain when the freshman year would start. However, Jiruo couldn't slack off and had to seize the time to farm achievements. After bidding farewell to Lu Jinchun, Jiruo turned around to look for Luo Jian. This little fellow did not seem to be that afraid of the human world anymore. The yellow sun was setting in the west. The boy fell off the plum blossom again. In fact, he was getting more and more familiar with the technique of walking the plum blossom piles. However, after walking for a day, he had exhausted too much of his physical strength. Moreover, he kept falling down, and his entire body was sore. As a result, he could not last as long as he did when he was not familiar with it at the beginning. However, he still stubbornly walked around the plum blossom dome. The few old men had left long ago. This child had been practicing alone for an entire day. Meow, 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 you're so stupid. Rosie giggled as she watched the boy fall again. She had been here for a while now. Jiruo was doing the weeding for free and she felt bored, so she went to the park alone. Not long ago, she was attracted by this stubborn child. It wasn't that the boy looked like he was going to get himself into trouble, but that he kept falling down and climbing up the quincuncus pile again and again. It was very interesting to Luo Jian. Smelly cat. The boy rubbed his sore ankle and frowned. Although he could not understand what Rosie was saying, Rosie was not an ordinary cat. She was very intelligent. The expression on her face and exaggerated body language made it obvious that she was mocking him. Meow. How rude. The boy frowned and said, get lost, or I'll beat you up. Rosie's eyes widened. With that, Luo Jian jogged up and climbed up the quincuncles like the boy. She jumped on the quincuncles, her movements unusually agile. A moment later, Luo Jian finished a round of quincuncles. She stood on the last plum blossom pile and turned around to look at the boy. The contempt in her eyes was unusually strong. It was as if he was saying, You dare to look down on me. He bent down angrily and picked up a lump of mud to throw at Rosie, but he regretted it as soon as he threw it out. Why was he angry with the cat? Luo Jian hurriedly jumped off the quincunx pile and was not hit by the mud. She wrinkled her nose and stuck out her tongue at the boy. A little, the boy was so angry that he charged at Luo Jian with his claws bared. Smelly cat. If you have the guts, don't let me catch you. Meow meow, come on, come on. You. Rosie's small body moved around the boy, and the boy could not touch Rosie at all. Although she was still in her infancy, Rosie was still a demon. The boy was just an ordinary person. He could not catch Rosie. One grabbing and one escaping, she was having a lot of fun. Rosie. Where are you? It's time to go home. Suddenly, Jiruo's voice came from afar. Meow master, I'm here. Rosie jumped and stepped on the boy's head, leaping backward. The boy became even angrier. He turned around and saw a white-haired youth walking towards him. The annoying black cat had jumped onto the white-haired youth's shoulder. Bad boy. The boy subconsciously made a judgment in his heart. He took a deep breath and silently turned around, planning to practice the quincunxels for a while more. Why didn't you answer me when I called you a few times? Jiruo rubbed Luo Qian's head. Was it fun in the park? Luo Qian squatted on Jiruo's shoulder and pointed at the boy who was practicing the quincunxels with her little claws. Meow, 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 he bullied me. Bully you? I'm afraid you're bullying me, aren't you? Jiruo laughed. Meow, how is that possible? Rosie is the best. Jiruo smiled and shook his head. He led Luo Qian to the boy. Hello little brother, I'm Jiruo. Jiruo raised his head and said to the boy on the plum blossom pile. Greeting first could increase the language appeal of the foreign affairs speaker. Her name is Rosie. She's my pet. LF Rosie did anything to upset you, I apologize on her behalf, Jiruo said. The boy stood on the plum blossom dome and looked down at Jiruo. My name is Huang. You don't have to apologize. Your cat didn't bully me. He would never admit that he was bullied by a little kitten. Meow meow, look at him. He's so cocky. Luo Qian pointed at Huang and said angrily. Jiruo smiled and shook his head. Who told you to bully others? Huang fell down again. Rosie, meow, meow, look, he's so stupid. He's fallen 12 times since I came here. Ha ha ha. No matter what the result is, people who work hard shouldn't be laughed at. Jiruo said seriously. Meow, got it? Huang looked at Jiruo in surprise, then quietly climbed up the quincunxels pile. While crawling, Huang grimaced in pain, perhaps because his wound was affected. However, he did not make a sound and did not stop moving. Little brother, it's not right for you to practice like this, Jiruo said. Didn't the school teach you how to walk the plum blossom dome? I'm in the 6th grade. Huang's face was flushed red. I can leave however I want. Who are you to me, he said stubbornly. Why should I be an addict? This child had quite a personality. Meow. Rosie said unhappily, Master, look at him. Jiruo thought about it carefully. Jiruo was about to leave with Luo Qian. At this moment, Jiruo noticed the big water tank beside him. The DNA suddenly moved. The big water tank was used for children to do the horse stance. The edges were smooth, so it was not easy to do the horse stance. There was water in the vat, so even if he fell, it wouldn't hurt much. It would just be a little embarrassing. Jiruo put his hand into the water tank and stirred it. As Jiruo stirred the water, a huge whirlpool gradually appeared in the vat. The water splashed out and soaked Jiruo's clothes. Huang saw that Jiruo was still playing with water so happily and couldn't help but snort, how childish. Congratulations to the host for unlocking the martial arts achievement, stirring water in a vat. Acquired fist technique, Taiji fist, beginner. Remark, a big watermelon is split in half with one palm. Remark, cultivating one's body, strengthening one's body, cleaning, a must-have for home and travel. It was fine to cultivate one's body, and it was reasonable to strengthen one's body. What the hell was with cleaning? After hesitating for a moment, Jiruo began to slowly punch. Huang saw Jiruo start to practice and secretly peeked at him for a while. However, when he saw that Jiruo's fist technique was as slow as a snail, he lost interest. Such a slow fist technique, what was there to practice? He stopped paying attention to Jiruo and continued to practice the plum blossom stance seriously. The sky gradually darkened, and the wind suddenly blew. Chapter 79, Chapter 79, Call me boss and I'll teach you Kung Fu, _L. Chapter 79, Call me boss and I'll teach you Kung Fu, _L. Taiji fist was a fist technique that combined the changes of yin and yang, the 5 elements, the meridians of Chinese medicine, the ancient Dayan technique, and the breathing technique. It was a soft, light, and flexible fist technique that cultivated both inside and outside. Jiruo knew all of this. In his previous life, he had also practiced Taiji fist for a period of time. However, that was just practicing blindly with the uncles and aunties in the park. And now, the Taiji fist that the system rewarded Jiruo was the complete Taiji fist. The Dayan technique and the breathing technique complemented each other. Jiruo calmed down and carefully felt it. At the mention of Taiji fist, most people's first reaction was to borrow strength to fight back. Jiruo was naturally the same, subconsciously wanting to borrow strength to fight back. But at this moment, he was training alone. Where could he borrow his strength from? His slow movements made him look like an old man who was about to die. Luo Qian looked at Jiruo's movements and even felt that the air resistance around Jiruo was very strong. Power is borrowed from heaven and earth. Inhale, exhale. Jiruo slowly pushed his palm forward, as if he was pushing the aura between heaven and earth. The aura flowed like a breeze, which in turn pushed Jiruo's movements. They complemented each other. The wind gradually grew stronger. Jiruo's branched energy veins were connected to the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. He was like a giant tree rooted in the void, sensing the veins of heaven and earth. An indescribable fist intent suddenly rose, causing a strange phenomenon. All the fallen leaves and grass within a radius of 30 meters were blown by the wind, quietly turning into a giant ball, wrapping Jiruo within it and slowly spinning round. Luo Qian had never seen such a scene before. She meowed excitedly and called her master awesome. Hu Wang stood on the quincuncle piles and carefully planned his route. Suddenly, he felt that the wind was a little off. He turned around and was dumbfounded. Jiruo was surrounded by a large number of dead leaves and branches, and the dead leaves and branches spun slowly with Jiruo's slow movements. As for Jiruo, who was among the fallen leaves, his white hair was like a celestial being. What kind of fist technique was this? Who is practicing Taiji fist? Jiruo happily punched, very satisfied with the special effect of this fist technique. After the series of punches, the fallen leaves slowly floated down, forming a Tai Chi pattern under Jiruo's feet. All the dead leaves within a 30-meter radius were here. This was really a fist technique used for cleaning. In fact, if he didn't want to see the full effect, he could have pushed the dead leaves into the trash can with just one more push. What kind of fist technique is this? Hu Wang came to the side of the large water tank and looked at the water that was still spinning in the water tank. He then looked at the Tai Chi under Jiruo's feet and said with some hesitation, "Can you teach me?" Jiruo looked at him with interest. Rosie meowed, "Meow. Now you know how powerful my master is, right? I won't teach you. I just don't teach. I'm nobody to you, why should I teach you?" Jiruo smiled. Hu Wang gritted his teeth. "Your fist technique is very powerful. I want to learn it. I want revenge." Revenge. Jiruo was stunned. What kind of grudge could a primary school student have? "Yes. I know you have to pay to learn martial arts, but I can pay you," Hu Wang said stubbornly. As he spoke, he took out a crumpled $10 bill from his pocket and said, "I only have this much. Please teach me." "You don't have enough money. I only have this much. Who do you want revenge against? Did the other children bully you? It's not good to hold grudges after losing." Jiruo asked curiously. In Great Xia, where martial arts was revered by the entire population, it was common for children to fight. That was called martial arts exchange and not fighting. However, there was one thing. A win was a win, and a loss was a loss. After the battle, one was not allowed to hold grudges. Then why do you want to learn boxing? Jiruo suddenly remembered something important. Wait, today isn't the weekend, right? Why aren't you in school? He had been in the middle of the 10,000 Beasts Mountain for 7 days, and after he came back, he had slept for an entire day, so much so that Jiruo couldn't remember the dates. Today wasn't the weekend. Although there was an accident in the martial arts examination, it did not affect the other grades. The losses were a little big, but it was not enough to paralyze the entire society. Hu Wang hesitated for a moment. Hu Wang. Hu Wang. At this moment, a slightly anxious female voice came from the side. Jiruo looked over and saw a young woman running over anxiously. "You child, why are you so worrisome? The teacher has been looking for you all day. Why didn't you go to school?" As soon as the woman came over, she grabbed Hu Wang and scolded him. Then, she apologized to Jiruo, "I'm sorry, did Hu Wang give you trouble? I apologize to you on his behalf. Go away. It's none of your business." Hu Wang stubbornly broke free from the woman and ran to the side of the big water tank. He imitated Jiruo and stirred the water in the tank. "I want to practice martial arts, I want to become stronger, I want revenge." Hu Wang. The woman opened her mouth and sighed. Jiruo asked curiously, "Hello, teacher. My name is Jiruo. I'm a martial arts examinee this year. May I ask what triggered little brother Hu Wang? Are you this year's martial arts exam candidate?" The woman looked at Jiruo in surprise, mainly at the white hair on Jiruo's head. No matter how he dressed, he did not look like a good student. However, the woman still said, "My name is Wang Yun, a teacher at number 13 primary school." Hu Wang, this child his parents applied to become patrolling martial artists for Hu Wang's further studies. Wang Yun didn't explain it clearly, but Jiruo understood. The young man was silent. The ranking of schools in Great Xia, from kindergarten to university, often changed. The ranking of a school was a reflection of the overall quality of a school's students. The 13th primary school was the 13th primary school in Cloud City. This ranking was considered relatively low. The patrolling martial artist was not a fixed occupation. Those who had been a patrolling martial artist could give their children extra points when they went to school. Hu Wang's parents were patrolling martial artists, and this time's martial examination was. Jiruo sighed. He finally understood why Hu Wang was like this. Hu Wang didn't hear their conversation. The child stubbornly imitated Jiruo and stirred the water, but he didn't understand anything. He was a little frustrated. In the end, that outing was only for Jiruo and Liang Shixian to be happy. For Great Xia, this martial examination was actually painful. He suddenly remembered that when he went to the hospital to visit Liang Shixian in the morning, the boy who rushed out of the stairwell seemed to be Hu Wang. Looking at Hu Wang's swollen face, he realized that this little guy had been practicing the Plum Blossom Dome for an entire day. Wang Yun sighed and said, "This child thinks that his parents went to be patrolling martial artists because he doesn't study hard enough. Teacher Wang, how about I help you take care of Hu Wang?" Jiruo suddenly said. With Hu Wang's current situation, he probably wouldn't be able to learn anything even if he went back to school. The young man thought of Li Nanan, who was poisoned but still forced her blood to open up a path for her students. He thought of the cold name list that recorded the names of more than 70,000 people. Among the 70,000 people who died, 60,000 were patrolling martial artists. They were the strongest people in the examination hall at that time, and they were also the ones who suffered the most casualties. This Wang Yun was a little hesitant. She knew that Jiruo was right, but she was a teacher. Although Jiruo kept saying that he was this year's martial arts examinee, he did not seem to be injured. Such a person was either strong enough and lucky enough to not encounter any irresistible danger, or they would hide behind the patrolling martial artists. Wang Yun looked at Jiruo's white hair and felt that Jiruo might be the latter. As a teacher, how could he hand his student over to a stranger? Hu Wang, watch carefully! Jiruo suddenly shouted. He started practicing Taiji fist again. The slow fist technique looked soft and powerless, but it seemed to be secretly in line with the veins of the world. Every move made the world breathe with it. The wind gradually picked up, carrying the dead branches and leaves in the wind. Jiruo slowly pushed his palm, using the power of the wind to push the flying dead branches and leaves into the trash can. Wang Yun was stunned. Although Hu Wang had already seen it once, he still couldn't treat it as normal. Retreat. Jiruo slowly exhaled a long white breath and said with a smile, "How about it? Do you want to learn?" He recalled the time when Liang Shixian didn't have the common language at the Myriad Beast Mountain, but he still stubbornly chirped at Aunt Jinglan. At that time, Liang Shixian said that although he might not be able to do anything, he had to do something. Now, Jiruo wanted to do something, and it was within his power. Taiji fist was an internal martial art. Its killing power was not outstanding, but it was mainly used to cultivate one's body. Of course, that was only in comparison. In a real fight, Taiji fist was still very strong. Hu Wang's eyes lit up, but then he felt a little disappointed. "But I don't have enough money." "I don't want your money. I just need you to agree to one condition of mine." "What condition?" "He's just a kid." Jiruo grinned. "How can you keep your face down all day long? Smile, smile, and I'll teach you." Laugh. Hu Wang was stunned. How could he still smile? Her father couldn't come back, and her mother was lying in a coma in the hospital, losing both her legs. He couldn't laugh and almost cried. But in order to learn from Jiruo, Hu Wang forced a smile. "Is this okay?" Looking at the ugly smile on Hu Wang's face, Jiruo didn't know whether to laugh or cry. All right. Your smile is so ugly. Let's change the conditions. Well, if you call me boss, I'll teach you martial arts." "I want you to laugh sincerely," Jiruo said with a smile. Boss Hu Wang hesitated for a moment before speaking softly. Congratulations to the host for triggering. Chapter 80, Little Friend. Chapter 80, Little Friend. Congratulations to the host for triggering the function, little brother, follow me. Acquired Halo ability, the leader of a small group, shaking people. The leader of a small group, you can recruit small partners. When the small partners cultivate the skills that the boss has mastered, the difficulty of learning will be passively reduced, and the efficiency of the small partners mastering the skills will be passively increased. Shaking people, increase the personal charm of boss based on the number of little friends and the happiness of little friends. When certain conditions are met, boss's combat strength can be increased by a percentage based on the number of little companions in the same scene. Remark, from now on, the Azure Dragon Gang will officially be renamed the Azure Dragon Study Group. Remark, study hard and improve every day is the sect's highest goal. Remark, boss. This guy is bullying me. What a pleasant surprise. Jiruo was in a good mood. Meow, he bullied me. Rosie was a little unhappy. You're a big cat, forgive him. Jiruo looked at Hu Wang and said seriously, my fist technique is called Taiji fist. I'll teach you the chant first. You have to learn it seriously. A big watermelon. I'll cut it in half and give you half. If you don't want it, I'll take it back and give her the other half. Wang Yun. She looked at Tiruo's palm that was dashed in front of her. Her head buzzing. Was he teaching boxing? The movements looked decent, but this chant. Hu Wang had already become Jiruo's little partner, and the halo effect of big boss of the small group had taken effect on him. As a primary school student with poor grades, Hu Wang did not notice that there was something wrong with the chant like Wang Yun. He only felt that Jiruo's fist technique was easy to remember. After memorizing the chant, Hu Wang began to practice. Under the influence of the halo, the child quickly memorized the chant and movements. Although there was still some distance to go before he could learn the basics, he could still fight properly. During the process, Jiruo corrected Hu Wang's movements with childish chants. Little Hu Wang, who had been practicing the Plum Blossom Dome alone for the whole day, was already covered in injuries. In addition, he was holding back his anger. He had not eaten much for the whole day, and his physical strength had been greatly exhausted. However, as he practiced the fist technique, the little guy's mental state actually became better and better, and his emotions gradually became calm. Even the bruises on his body were slowly dissipating at an extremely slow speed. Taiji Fist was an internal martial art that focused on self-cultivation. According to the style of Jiruo's cute system, the so-called self-cultivation of his Taiji Fist could actually be understood separately. It is both self-cultivation and self-cultivation. It was just a matter of promoting blood circulation and removing blood stasis. He did not even need to have a basic understanding of it. It was enough as long as he could fight it properly. Wang Yun was dumbfounded. Jiruo had really taught him this. Was that childish chant really the real fist technique chant? As a teacher, Wang Yun's realm might not be very high, but her eyesight was not bad. She could tell that the set of fist technique was very mysterious. The smooth and natural meaning revealed in the fist technique even made her feel a little obscure. Most importantly, she had never seen or heard of the set of fist technique. At this moment, a word suddenly appeared in Wang Yun's heart. Ridiculous. Little Hu Wang, see you tomorrow. Jiruo said goodbye to Hu Wang and Wang Yun. I'll teach you something else tomorrow. Good. Boss, see you tomorrow. Hu Wang waved his hand vigorously, feeling excited. Wang Yun looked at Jiruo's departing back and was a little dazed. She didn't seem to have agreed to let her student learn martial arts from this white-haired youth, right? She was Hu Wang's teacher. Wang Yun looked at Hu Wang, who was in a much better mood, with a strange expression. Her student recognized a white-haired youth as her boss right in front of her. As the form teacher, shouldn't he take care of the situation? There was a constant stream of cars on the road. On the roadside, Jiruo was waiting for the traffic light with her head against Luo Qian's. He activated a line between life and death and looked at the road. Suddenly, white lines appeared in his line of sight, planning a route for Jiruo to cross the road safely. The teenager only needed to step on the white line to move forward, and he would not be hit by the passing cars. Of course, because the cars were always moving, the white lines in Jiruo's eyes were constantly changing. To pass through safely, reaction and speed were indispensable. By the way, the color of the white line was very faint. Jiruo felt that this might mean that with the current speed of the vehicles, they would not be able to kill him in an instant. Jiruo browsed the news on her phone and suddenly had an idea. Should we sell some spirit herbs? Hu Wang's situation was not unique. The patrolling martial artists suffered heavy casualties. There must be many children like Hu Wang. If he wanted to sell some spirit herbs, not only could it help the family, but it could also help the families of the patrolling martial artists. It was killing two birds with one stone. Jiruo was living on the monthly stipend from the Great Xia government. It was okay to live a normal life, but it was not enough to think about living a little better. Everyday necessities cost money, and Jiruo didn't have any regular savings. He did have a scholarship, and it was a large sum. However, the money was saved in the Education Department's bursary foundation for the sake of her university studies. It could be used to practice martial arts, but to be honest, there were only a few martial arts that could be learned at the martial apprentice stage. There was no need to learn the ordinary ones. The more powerful ones, such as the iron palm or iron shirt, could strengthen the human body. Not only did the cultivation process consume a lot of expensive medicinal materials, but it also did not increase the strength of the martial artist much before reaching the Qi Meridian realm. The original owner didn't move, she scrimped and saved and studied hard. She didn't know how to use the natural plan. When the martial examination had just begun, Jiruo had collected the tail stingers of the tail stinger hornets just to improve his life. In that case, we don't lack any money now. Selling spiritual herbs. However, he didn't want to waste his time on something too complicated. With this time, wouldn't it be nice to grind more proficiency points? Is there any way to earn money and practice at the same time? It seems like there really is. Jiruo's eyes lit up. He thought about it carefully and felt that this idea seemed to be very good. I can practice and earn money at the same time. It's killing two birds with one stone. I'm really too smart. Jiruo thought to herself happily. Luo Qian stared at the phone in Jiruo's hand and meowed, meow meow, master, your mirror is so beautiful. It can even change patterns. This is called a cell phone. Jiruo, who thought that he had thought of a money-making trick, was in a good mood. When master earns money, I'll buy one for you too. Meow, meow, meow. Okay. Thank you, master. After returning home, Jiruo bought a modified cart from an old man who used to be in the restaurant business at a friendship price. Whether it was before or after transmigration, Jiruo's popularity was still good. The neighbors all liked this optimistic and hard-working child. The grandpa only took a symbolic 200 yuan for the materials. At the same time, he also seriously imparted his work experience to Jiruo. Little tiny Ruo, I don't object if you want to do this, but there's one thing. When you meet the enforcement officers, you must run as fast as possible. Otherwise, it would be terrible if they were caught. These things would be confiscated. Chapter 81, Chapter 81, There were too many rich people in the society, _L. Chapter 81, There were too many rich people in the society, _L. City First Hospital. Hu Wang looked at his mother who was lying on the hospital bed, unconscious and pale. He could not help but clench his fists. Mom, I recognized a boss today. He knows a very powerful fist technique. Boss taught me martial arts and didn't charge me. Mom, I will become stronger. I will become very, very strong. Mom, I'll study hard and get into a good school on my own. Mom, I'll learn martial arts well from boss. I'll get a lot of marks when I go to school. Return the points you guys earned for me. Mom, can you wake up? Hu Wang's eyes were red and his voice choked. He wiped the tears from his eyes. Mom, why are you the only one back? Where's Dad? Didn't you go together? Don't worry, Grandpa Lu. I've inherited your legacy. I definitely won't embarrass you. Jiruo promised cheerfully. Uncle Lu was in a good mood. He stroked his beard and said, hee, if little trickster really knows how to talk, think back to the days when I, your grandpa, was known as a man who ran away from roadside stalls. He had been in the industry for so many years, but he had never been caught by the city enforcement officers. Unfortunately, he was old now and could not run. Jiruo chatted with Uncle Lu for a while before pushing the cart back home. He used the spiral ball to create soap whirlpools while Jiruo carefully cleaned the cart. Other than that, Jiruo had obtained all kinds of martial arts skills through unlocking the achievement, and all of them were very down to earth. The spiral ball could be used to wash clothes, bathe, and wash all kinds of things. Of course, one had to pay attention to the strength, or else the clothes would be easily shredded when washing them. To a certain extent, this small flaw could be considered the dignity of the spiral ball martial technique. Iron palm could be used to cook, Taiji fist could be used to clean. Martial arts was used in the family. Then, he used the remaining money to buy a lot of rice, eggs, vegetables, and various spices. He processed the ingredients briefly and placed them on the cart. After a simple dinner, Jiruo took a shower and went to bed. Rosie, I have a feeling that we're going to make a fortune. Meow, master is right. Make a fortune. In the middle of the night, Jiruo was so excited that she couldn't sleep at the thought of starting a business. He was a Chi Meridian realm martial artist and was full of energy. Under normal circumstances, he could go without sleep for a few days. At 4 in the morning, Jiruo was tossing and turning in bed, no longer sleeping. Little Luo Qian was not very observant and thought that Jiruo was playing a game with her. She was jumping around happily on the bed, but she did not change her talent to quality sleep. Jiruo saw that this wouldn't do either. Lying in bed without sleeping, wasn't that wasting time? Thus, Jiruo got up and practiced 2 sets of Taiji fist to calm down a little. Rosie, there are too many rich people in this society. We have to do something, he said seriously to the kitten. Meow, listen to master. Good. Let's do something big today. Jiruo took out the brand new kitchen knife he had bought last night from the kitchen, and his eyes were filled with ferocity. At 5 in the morning, in the park. Jiruo's food stall stood up. It was early in the morning, and there were not many people in the park. Even if they were doing morning exercises, they would not come so early. Jiruo sighed. I was too hasty. I came too early. He was holding a large T-shaped pot in one hand. Inside the pot was rice and water that had been prepared long ago. The palm under the pot was burning white. His iron palm was superb. Jiruo carefully controlled the heat. He was cooking porridge. Rosie volunteered to help. She stood on the cart and held a long spoon, stirring the porridge in the pot with great effort. Jiruo's other hand was holding a spiral ball, which was upside down in an iron bucket. He spun it at high speed and crushed the soybeans in the iron bucket. He was making soy milk. As the saying went, as long as one's thinking did not decline, there would always be more solutions than difficulties. He now had quite a few martial arts techniques or skills. With a little pairing, he could do quite a lot of things. Who would have thought that the breathing technique of the Gale sword technique, combined with the iron palm at the acme of perfection, could be used as a hair dryer? As for whether cooking with his hands was sanitary or not, under the full activation of the iron sand palm at the acme of perfection level, it had a temperature of over 1,000 degrees. It was more than enough to disinfect. Jiruo added some ordinary spirit herbs to the porridge and soybean milk. He had plenty of them anyway. Jiruo planned to sell a bowl of porridge for 5 yuan and a cup of soy milk for 2 yuan. The various spiritual herbs added to it were almost free. Anyway, the main purpose was to practice martial arts. These spiritual herbs were not high-end goods, and they were also regenerated. He had another consideration when he added spirit herbs to the porridge and soybean milk. Congee and soybean milk with spirit herbs would definitely taste better than ordinary porridge and soybean milk, right? Wouldn't it be better for the customer's health? Anyway, he didn't lack low-level spirit herbs. If he could use this to exchange for the sincere praise of the customers and increase the progress of his sincere praise from the elder's achievement, it would be perfect. After making the porridge and grinding the soy milk, Jiruo looked at the time. It was only 5:30. It's too early. After thinking for a while, Jiruo said to the kitten, Rosie, please take care of the stall while I go practice my boxing. Meow dash, good master, leave it to me. Putting the pot back on the cart, Jiruo got up and walked to the side to start practicing. With every set of Taiji fist, Jiruo would move 30 meters. He was both practicing and cleaning. The rubbish, dust, and fallen leaves along the road were all moved by Jiruo's Taiji fist intent, turning into a long line of dust and flying into the rubbish bin one after another. An hour later, the pedestrians in the park gradually grew more and more, and Jiruo returned to his food stall. Perhaps it was because he had just arrived, Jiruo didn't have many guests. However, the white porridge and soybean milk with spirit herbs smelled very fragrant, and it still attracted a few curious customers. Why is there a food stall here? It wasn't there yesterday. Because I just opened my stall today, Jiruo said with a smile. The customer sniffed. That's strange. This porridge looks like a clear soup with little water. It smells quite fragrant, boss. How much is this porridge? Give me a bowl of porridge. All right. It was the first time he had opened a restaurant. Jiruo happily took out a disposable paper bowl and quickly scooped a bowl of porridge for the customer. Chinjui, 5 yuan. The customer paid and sipped the hot porridge on the folding table that Jiruo had set up. It tastes good. After a few mouthfuls of hot porridge, the customer felt his entire body become spirited. He didn't care about the heat anymore. He casually blew on the hot porridge and drank it in one gulp. He was so scalded that he cried out. His ha boss, another bowl. All right. Congratulations to the host for triggering the function, the so-called god of food is me. Obtained title, Culinary God. Culinary God, cooking, beginner, upgradable, medicinal cuisine, beginner, upgradable. Cooking, beginner based on the skill level, you will be able to master the skills related to cooking at the current level. Delicious +3, pleasure +3. Medicinal cuisine, elementary, and NBSP nutrients +3. Remark, the dishes I cook are all good. Remark, simple combination, nutritious and delicious, double the happiness. After the first customer left, Jiruo was satisfied with the $12 he earned. At the same time, the special sense of achievement triggered a new achievement for Jiruo. The culinary skills, beginner, that came with the title of Culinary God allowed Jiruo to see at a glance that the porridge she had cooked in the morning was actually not too well controlled. The porridge was a little burnt. Fortunately, Jiruo had added spirit herbs, which covered up this little flaw. With the first customer, the business would be much easier. It was just a pity that sincere praise from an elder's progress did not increase. Jiruo's food stall gradually became lively. Everyone said that they had never tasted such delicious porridge before. It looked like an ordinary porridge, but it was exceptionally delicious, making people click their tongues in wonder. How could it not be delicious? That was a spirit herb produced by a tree demon. After triggering a new achievement, Jiruo didn't feel bad about the spirit herbs. There were almost a mountain of similar spirit herbs in his Wanxiang mirror. The tree demon brothers were too enthusiastic and forced them to be stuffed into his mouth when they said they didn't want them. Jiruo was busy selling porridge to the customers while Luo Qian helped to clean up the disposable cutlery left behind by the customers. The kitten meowed as it walked under the feet of the customers. Its cute appearance made the customers' hearts melt. At 7:20 in the morning, Wang Yun and Hu Wang arrived at the park. As Hu Wang's form teacher, Wang Yun was really worried about Hu Wang, but she couldn't let Hu Wang go back to school properly. She couldn't force Hu Wang to go back to school. The child would easily be disgusted and even hate her. So, with no other choice, Yun Yun followed Hu Wang to the park to look for his boss. Although there were many customers in front of Jiruo's food stall, Hu Wang still saw Jiruo's white hair at a glance. It was too eye-catching. "Boss, I'm here." He walked through the crowd and saw Jiruo cheerfully selling breakfast. He was a little confused. Didn't they say that they were going to teach him martial arts today? Why was he selling breakfast? "Little Hu Wang is here. And Mr. Wang, have you had breakfast?" Jiruo asked with a smile. Come. I'll treat you to a meal. My porridge is delicious." Hu Wang hesitated for a moment, then summoned his courage and said, "Boss, didn't you say you were going to teach me martial arts today?" "Yeah, I've already prepared everything for you." As Jiruo spoke, she reached out and took out a basin of uncooked rice from under the cart and handed it to Hu Wang. "Come, take it first. When I'm done here, I'll teach you this." He practices the iron palm. Hu Wang subconsciously took the bowl of uncooked rice. He lowered his head to look at it, then looked up at the busy Jiruo. Her small eyes were filled with confusion. Wasn't this boss a little too hasty? Was iron palm trained with rice? Chapter 82, Can you really train? Chapter 82, Can you really train? 7:40. Jiruo smiled at the customers in line and said, "I'm sorry, my dear customers. This is our first time doing business, and I didn't know that business would be so good. Breakfast has already been sold out." The customers in line were a little unhappy, but they did not say anything. They had never tasted the porridge cooked by Jiruo before. They had only come to join the queue because there were so many people. During the process of queuing up, due to the spirit herbs that Jiruo had added to the porridge and the delicious +3 effect of cooking, basic, the porridge smelled especially fragrant. He was looking forward to it. However, since Jiruo said that they had sold out, they had no choice. Thus, the crowd gradually dispersed. Of course, Jiruo could cook the porridge again. With his iron palm at the acme of perfection, it wouldn't take long for Jiruo to cook a pot of porridge again. However, if he wanted to take a break, he had earned a lot of money. He counted the small amount of money he had earned this morning over and over again, and he was in a good mood. He was almost back. Spiritual medicine? What spirit herb? That thing didn't even need to calculate the cost. The ingredients of Jiruo's snacks were much more expensive than the main food, but Jiruo didn't care. He mainly wanted to farm achievements. It was not a loss to use things that were not particularly important to him to exchange for achievement progress. Jiruo was very happy that his food was so popular. Little Hu Wang quietly finished his porridge. His mood became a little better, but he was still a little depressed. He looked at the pot of rice in front of him and was extremely speechless. After thinking for a while, Hu Wang took a deep breath and stood up. He took out the crumpled 10 yuan note and said, "Boss, here you go." Jiruo was a little surprised. "Pay for what? I told you I'm treating you." "Boss, I'll call you boss for the last time. I'm very grateful that you taught me Taiji Fist." "Wait a moment." Jiruo scratched his head. "Little Hu Wang, what's wrong with you?" Hu Wang was a little angry. "I am still young, but I am not a fool. If you don't want to teach me real martial arts because I can't afford it, you can just say it directly. You don't have to be so perfunctory. How did I brush you off? Don't think that I don't know. Cultivating the iron palm requires a specific medicinal liquid, and the cultivation process also requires iron sand. Give me a basin of rice and let me practice the iron palm. If this isn't perfunctory, what is it?" He felt like he had been deceived. Although Jiruo was not obligated to teach him martial arts, he had given him hope and personally destroyed it. He could not accept it. Children hated it when adults lied to them. "I'm not being perfunctory." Jiruo shrugged. "You said that the iron palm requires a specific medicinal liquid and iron sand. Why? Wasn't it because using iron sand to cultivate was too harmful to the human body? However, using rice would not cause such a problem. They were both tempering, and the nature was not much different. The progress was a little slower, but it was not completely impossible to train." Jiruo wasn't spouting nonsense. Although the cultivation method of the martial technique rewarded by the system might seem a little strange, it was indeed a true cultivation method. No matter who it was, they could cultivate it. It was just a matter of time. "Little Hu Wang, look, I'll show you." Jiruo took out a new basin and poured half of the rice in front of Hu Wang. Then, Jiruo reached his hands into the pile of rice and started to stir-fry. Normally speaking, the iron palm is a type of palm hard martial art that uses iron sand and medicinal ingredients as training aids. It can be used to attack and defend through specific training methods. After cultivating for a long time, the iron sand palm had the ability to crack bricks and stones, and it also had the effect of high temperature. Jiruo earnestly imparted some theoretical knowledge of the iron palm to little Huang. At the same time, his pair of fleshy palms weaved through the pile of rice. It looked like he was really practicing. Wang Yun was slightly surprised. Jiruo's theoretical foundation was quite solid, and the idea of using rice to replace iron sand to practice martial arts step by step was also eye-catching. Moreover, the way Jiruo flipped his palm seemed to be more accurate than in some of the teaching videos on the internet. But the problem was, you really used rice to practice iron palm. Actually, I personally feel that it doesn't matter if the iron sand palm is trained with iron sand or not. This is a process of tempering the body and causing it to undergo some kind of controllable transformation. What is used to train it? As Jiruo spoke, he added some prepared spirit herbs and vegetables into the pile of rice. Previously, he didn't have the means to do so in the Myriad Beast Mountain. Now that Jiruo had set up a food stall and obtained cooking, beginner, he naturally wanted to make the rice taste better. Huang stared blankly at Jiruo using the rice to practice the iron palm. He even gradually cooked it, and the fragrance slowly rose. When Jiruo started to put the spirit herbs and vegetables into the rice pile, Wang Yun and Huang subconsciously thought that Jiruo was using some medicinal herbs that looked like vegetables to assist in his cultivation. Until Jiruo started to put in seasonings. Not long after, Jiruo had cooked half a basin of rice. It looked, smelled, and tasted good. If one ignored the fact that it was forcefully fried with one's hands, it would really look quite delicious. Here, try it. Jiruo gave Huang Sheng a bowl. Be boss Huang was convinced. Jiruo was really teaching him martial arts with all his heart, and he was using the method that consumed the least amount of energy, but... He hesitated for a moment and said, I'm sorry. I suspected you before, boss. But boss, isn't it a little unsanitary for you to directly cook the rice with your hands? Unsanitary? Little Huang, what do you think the purpose of practicing martial arts is? Martial artists had to fight with magical beasts. Could it be that in the future, when you were fighting with magical beasts in the wild and were hungry, you had to let the magical beasts wait for you to clean up and cook before attacking? Huang was stunned. Jiruo continued, in that case, it's good enough that you have food. There's no condition for you to be picky. Besides. Jiruo flipped his palm, and his iron palm, which had reached the acme of perfection, was ignited with blazing white flames. The temperature was extremely high. The iron palm is a hard body palm technique that has both high temperature and hardness. It was disinfected at high temperature and was as hard as iron. It was the most suitable for cooking. Most importantly, you are still in primary school, and it is time for you to grow. You can't use the regular training method to practice the iron palm. I'm doing this for your sake. With the principle of not wasting anything, Jiruo explained as he and Luo Qian started to eat fried rice. This pair of master and servant had a big appetite. It did not take long for them to finish half a pot of fried rice. I see, boss, you know so much. Huang suddenly understood. I'll practice it now. Hee, why else would I be the boss? Jiruo laughed and told Huang to practice first. If there was anything he didn't understand, he would ask himself. He and Luo Qian cleaned up the mess left by the customers and started to prepare the things to be sold at noon. He decided to sell fried rice at noon. Well, if he added some one-star demon beast meat and fried it together, it would definitely sell better. When that time came, he could sell a plate of fried rice for 10 yuan and make a fortune. Wang Yun looked at Jiruo, then at Huang, who was seriously practicing the iron palm. Her mind was in a mess. She admitted that Jiruo's theory did make some sense, but this was too ridiculous. Wang Yun pondered for a moment and suddenly reached her hand into the pile of rice in front of Huang. Feeling it with her heart. It was quite comfortable. Chapter 83, a special cultivation method for Jane Gong, _L. Chapter 83, a special cultivation method for Jane Gong, _L. Huang was now Jiruo's little partner. With the halo effect, he could learn the skills that Jiruo had already mastered with half the effort. However, little Huang didn't have a system, so his progress was much slower than Jiruo's. Even so, after half an hour of serious stir-frying, Huang felt an extremely weak heat quietly appear in his palms. He was so excited that he could not control himself. He could really master it? Huang thought happily, boss didn't lie to him. In reality, it was impossible for him to learn it so quickly. The so-called warmth was just an illusion. However, happiness was happiness. Wang Yun looked at the excited Huang with a complicated expression. She felt like she understood what Jiruo was thinking. This white-haired young man was trying to divert Huang's attention so that the child wouldn't be immersed in self-blame and grief, right? Regardless of whether Jiruo's special iron palm cultivation theory was true or not, Hu Wang, who was still in primary school, could not really practice a hard body skill like the iron palm. It would easily cause irreversible damage to Hu Wang's body. This was a good young man. Wang Yun was a little relieved. Then, Jiruo, I'll leave Hu Wang to you for the time being. Wang Yun stood up and bowed to Jiruo. I'll thank you on behalf of Hu Wang. Jiruo quickly helped Wang Yun up and said, no need, no need. Teacher Wang. Hu Wang is my little friend. This is what I should do. No matter what, I still have to thank you. I still have classes at school, so I'll go back first. Yes, yes. Teacher Wang, don't worry. Hu Wang is here. Then, the two of them exchanged contact information. Wang Yun reminded Jiruo to call her if she encountered any problems. Wang Yun turned around and left. However, before she could leave the park, she heard Jiruo's exclamation behind her. Not good. The city enforcement officers were here. Hurry up and pack your things. Wang Yun turned around in shock and saw Jiruo grab Hu Wang, who was carrying a rice bowl in his arms, and put him on the cart. The little black cat quickly piled up the chairs and put them back on the cart, then jumped onto Jiruo. Jiruo picked up the folding table and ran past her, bringing with it a gust of wind. As he passed by, Jiruo did not forget to shout, Teacher Wang, the enforcement officers are here. We'll leave first. Then, a car with the words Civilized Law Enforcement engraved on it drove past Wang Yun. Young man, don't run. We won't find trouble with you. I don't believe it. You must want to confiscate my cart. Wang Yun stood in the wind, feeling extremely confused. She had just handed her student over to Jiruo, not even a minute had passed, and the image of Jiruo patting his chest and promising her was still vivid in her mind. Rest assured? I'll put a hammer on this. Wang Yun's emotions were not coherent. Meow, meow, meow go, go. Luo Qian squatted on Jiruo's shoulder, her claws tightly clutching Jiruo's clothes. She faced the enforcement vehicle behind her. Meow meow catching up. Jiruo used his full concentration breath wind and stepped on the breeze. His speed was extremely fast. The town security vehicle was not at full speed, so naturally, it could not catch up with Jiruo. Little Hu Wang sat on the front of the car, hugging the pot of rice tightly in his arms. The scenery on both sides of the car was rapidly retreating, and the wind was howling, making it difficult for Hu Wang to open his eyes. However, he didn't dare to close his eyes. He was afraid that if he did, he would be pushed into something. B-boss, run slower, I am afraid. Hu Wang said with a trembling voice. Little Hu Wang, don't be afraid. It'll be fine. Martial arts is about advancing forward. Hu Wang. Was he so indomitable? At this moment, in Jiruo's vision, there was a long white line extending into the distance. When to turn, when to go straight, everything was planned. Jiruo only needed to follow this white line. As long as they did not leave the white line, there would be no danger. Jiruo had used his intuition to hide from the town security. Lu Jinchun arrived at the park. He had just picked up a broom and was about to clean up when he suddenly heard a strange sound. He looked up and saw Jiruo's eye-catching white hair. The boy was pushing a small cart at full speed. Sitting on the front of the cart was a little boy with some bruises on his face. The boy's face was full of fear. Auntie Lu. I'm sorry, I'm afraid I can't help you work today. The city enforcement officers are here. Jiruo, who was running wildly, did not pay attention to controlling his volume. Lu Jinchun's heart trembled slightly when he heard his roar. Foreign affairs speaker increases the appeal of words. Town security. She had set up a stall before, and it happened so suddenly that she subconsciously ran after Jiruo. Lu Jinchun's martial arts skills were not good, and his physical strength was declining as he grew older. How could he run faster than the city management car? He suddenly ran wildly and was panting after a few steps. The sound of the city enforcement vehicle behind him was getting closer and closer. Lu Jinchun was a little desperate. She can't run away. Hearing the sound of the car that seemed to be close at hand, Lu Jinchun closed his eyes as if he had accepted his fate and subconsciously tightened his grip on the broom in his hand. However, the city enforcement vehicle did not stop and drove straight past her. Lu Jinchun. After a long while, Lu Jinchun came back to his senses. Why should I run? I work here. Looking at Jiruo who was pushing the cart further and further away, Lu Jinchun stopped where he was and panted. He opened his mouth and said faintly after a moment, it's good to be young. Let me tell you, the porridge made by that young man is really delicious. I ate 3 bowls in a row this morning and felt 100 times more energetic. You don't believe me? If you don't believe me, you can have one too. And that soy milk, I've never drunk such fine soy milk before. There's no bean dregs at all. Tisk tisk, This is amazing. It was really just a sip, and the good mood of the day came out. It was not an exaggeration at all. Is it really that delicious? You're making me crave it. The colleague who was driving looked at Jiruo, who was running faster and faster in front of him, and was a little depressed. How did this white-haired boss run so fast? Don't we just want to eat something? I told you, don't drive the unit's car out. You didn't listen. Then aren't we patrolling? Is there any problem with driving the company's car during work? Then it doesn't seem to be a problem for them to run away when they see us. The few enforcement officers in the car suddenly fell silent. That seems to be the case. The few city enforcement officers felt their teeth ache. So what if it was a city enforcement officer? The enforcement officers don't eat breakfast. They looked at Jiruo's running back and suddenly realized that the route he took was a little strange. He could always pass through the gaps between the pedestrians just right. The gaps would only exist for a short moment, and after he passed through them, the gaps would disappear. It was often when Jiruo ran over that the passers-by would react and scold him. Later on, when they got on the road, the gap between Jiruo and them became wider. However, it was fine for Jiruo to pass by himself. If the city enforcement vehicle wanted to pass by, there would definitely be a vehicle that happened to pass by them. It was as if everything had been planned in advance. As a result, the speed of the city enforcement vehicle became slower and slower. In the end, it had no choice but to stop by the roadside. One of the enforcement officers recalled the details of the chase and could not help but let out a soft hiss. What a handsome Qinggong. This white-haired little boss was an expert. With such good Qinggong, why not do something else? Do you think there's such a possibility? Did that white-haired little boss hide from us city enforcement officers with his Qinggong? Oh, 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 oh. Does our job have such a function? Chapter 84, Innocence and Beauty. Chapter 84, Innocence and Beauty. Jiruo shook off the car, but he didn't stop. The escape route planned by First Line Instinct was constantly changing, but it did not exceed Jiruo's reaction limit. He thought that setting up a stall to earn money was indeed profitable, but it was not good to be chased by the city enforcement officers all the time. What money was there to earn if he just ran away? For this business, Jiruo had invested all of his wealth. If he could not earn money, he could only eat spirit herbs, spirit fruits, and demon beast meat. Although he wouldn't starve to death, what was the point of living in Great Xia if he didn't have money to buy anything delicious? After rounding up, if he couldn't set up a stall, it would be no different from being dead. Thus, the escape route that Jiruo's direct instinct had planned quietly changed. At the end of the white line was a safe place to set up a stall. Oh, oh, oh. It was too fast. Boss, slow down a little, too fast. Little Huang sat at the front of the car and grabbed the edge of the cart. He was nervous and excited. His entire body was stiff and he did not dare to move, afraid that he would fall. Hee, isn't it exciting? Let's see how boss will drift you. Ah! Huang shrieked, and only after a while did he realize that he was fine. Although the small cart was fast, it was surprisingly stable. The intense stimulation caused Huang's adrenaline to surge. He was nervous and excited. Is it fun? Jiruo smiled and asked, It's fun. Huang said happily. If it's fun, then let's play a little longer. Oh. It's not fun, it's not fun. Boss, let me go. Meow, so timid, slightly 9. Jiruo laughed. Little Huang, you have to practice your courage. Luo Qian is laughing at you. I'm not afraid. Boss, hurry up. The small cart sped up again, passing through the streets and alleys at a rapid speed. Huang screamed again. He was getting more and more scared and excited. Ah! So fast. Ha 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 ha. The child did not notice himself. When he was afraid that he would fall, a smile appeared on his face. Teacher, don't worry. I've already discussed it with Jiruo. I'll go to school with him after I'm discharged tomorrow. Liang Shixian, who was wearing a hospital gown, stood in the corridor and called Li Bindao. Liang Shixian, there's no hurry for the school, Li Bin said. It's fine, teacher. I actually didn't suffer any injuries. I just took out my appendix and it's almost healed. If my mom hadn't asked me to stay in the hospital for more observation, I would have been discharged long ago. It takes 100 days for one's bones to be injured. Li Bindao hesitated for a moment. I'll have to trouble you guys this time. The main reason is that many students have developed a strong dislike for martial arts because of this martial arts examination. Practicing martial arts wasn't the only way out, but it was the only way to live up to any hard work. You are all good children and have a bright future ahead of you. I hope that you will reconsider, but there are some things that are not appropriate for me to say. So, Liang Shixian, I'll have to trouble you and Jiruo. No trouble, No trouble. Teacher, I'm the class monitor. This is what I should do. Liang Shixian said. After hanging up the phone, Liang Shixian stood in the corridor in silence. Initially, he thought that it was just a simple sharing, but from what Li Bindao meant, the situation seemed to be a little serious. Moreover, he knew very well that he and Jiruo's experiences in this exam could not be used as a reference for other students. What should he say to his classmates? They said that they had played around, ate, and drank all the way to the Myriad Beast Mountain, and returned happily to hand in their examples. Even if he said it, someone had to believe it. Jiruo said that he has a plan. After pondering for a moment, Liang Shixian suddenly realized that with his understanding of Jiruo, this guy would definitely not play by the rules. At that time, it might even have the opposite effect. The teacher originally wanted them to go back and motivate the students to regain their confidence in martial arts. What if after the encouragement, some of the students who were already wavering decided to give up? Liang Shixian sighed and said to himself, Jiruo, it's not that I don't trust you, but this kind of thing can't be joked about. He left the stairwell and asked the nurse for a pen and paper. He planned to polish his experience with Jiruo in the secret realm and write a speech seriously. He wasn't sure how effective it would be, but it wouldn't hurt to be prepared. Liang Shixian sat in the corridor and began to think about the content of his speech. He did not return to the ward. There were many injured people in the martial arts examination this time, and the wards were rather tight. Not everyone could obtain the life fruit like him. After obtaining his parents' consent, Liang Shixian gave up his ward to someone who needed it more. Mother Liang used to be a military doctor in the army and was currently working as a temporary medical staff in the hospital. Although Father Liang was not skilled in medicine, he still helped out in the hospital. As parents, they lead by example. Liang Shixian had always regarded them as role models and pride. Jiruo pushed a small cart and brought little Huang and little Luo Jian through the streets of the city. The unbridled laughter reverberated in the city. Some of the frightened pedestrians originally wanted to curse, but under the influence of the unbridled and pure laughter, they were slightly stunned. They could not help but laugh and sigh, it's good to be young. At the school gate of Yuncheng First Middle School. After a round of playing, when Jiruo pushed the cart to the school gate, it was already close to noon. The white line under Jiruo's feet had also reached its end. Even Jiruo was a little surprised. The safe place that first line intuition had planned for him was actually his own school. Today was Wednesday. Other than the martial arts examens, the students of the other grades were in class as usual. Quick, quick, quick. It's almost time to get out of school. We have to set up the food stall quickly. Jiruo called out to Huang and Luo Jian and started to get busy. There wasn't much to prepare, just setting up the tables and chairs. There was only a table and 4 plastic stools in total. It didn't take much time. Little Huang looked at the school gate of number 1 middle school and pursed his lips. He didn't say anything. The happiness he had just felt seemed to have disappeared without a trace in an instant. He silently practiced his iron palm at the side. Ding, ding, ding. Not long after, the bell rang. The students walked out of the campus talking and laughing. These were all Year 1 and Year 2 students. No matter when, school was always a happy event for students. The accident that happened in this martial examination did not seem to affect them. Most youngsters were like this. Before they were truly defeated by something, they would always think that they were the best. It was confidence, naivete, and beauty. Chapter 85, Safety Without Business. Chapter 85, Safety Without Business. Wow. Boss, your kung fu is so cool. Some of the students had already noticed Jiruo. His white hair was too eye-catching. Apart from his white hair, Jiruo's palms were surrounded by flames as he stir-fried in the pot, looking extremely cool. The alluring fragrance gradually rose, attracting a large number of students to watch. Is this a show or a food stall? A student asked curiously. Jiruo smiled and said, of course it's food. Iron palm fried rice, 10 yuan a serving. Iron palm fried rice. More and more students gathered to watch. The fragrance assailed their noses, but no one paid to buy it. He's handsome, but he doesn't look sanitary. Will he have diarrhea after eating this? Yes, yes, how can you directly cook rice with your hands? Why don't you use a spatula? I've only heard of iron plate fried rice, but I've never heard of iron palm fried rice. Can this really be eaten? The students were skeptical about Jiruo's act of using iron palm to cook rice. Stir-frying it with his palm was not sanitary at all. No one recognized Jiruo. After all, there were nearly 3,000 students in Yuncheng First Middle School from grade 1 to grade 3. Jiruo was not a famous person before, so it was naturally impossible for everyone to recognize him. Moreover, Jiruo had a head full of white hair now. With the first impression, No one would think that Jiruo was a student of Noel Middle School. Meow meow, do you know? Master's fried rice is amazing. F***ing fried rice hand. A student asked curiously, boss, what palm technique is this? Why did he look a little familiar? This is the iron palm. I've developed it a little. It's pretty good for fried rice. Iron palm. The students were a little surprised. But why do I remember that the iron palm isn't this color? The temperature of the iron sand palm, which had reached the acme of perfection, was extremely high, and its color was blazing white. However, firstly, it was not a particularly high-grade martial technique, and very few people would spend time to cultivate it to the acme of perfection. Secondly, no matter what martial technique it was, very few people could cultivate it to the acme of perfection. This level was not something that could be achieved through hard work alone. Maybe my iron palm is more powerful. Classmate, do you think other people's iron palm can make fried rice? Jiruo laughed. I can't. The student shook his head. I've never heard of any martial arts being used to cook food. This is too unsanitary. The surrounding students were discussing animatedly. The fragrance of the fried rice was getting stronger and stronger. Jiruo had added a little bit of one-star demon beast meat and some ordinary spirit herbs, coupled with the delicious +3 effect of cooking, basic. At this moment, it was noon after school, and it was time for lunch. Logically speaking, these students should not be able to resist this temptation. However, they endured it. It smells so good. A student couldn't help but say, if it wasn't for the fact that this was stir-fried with my hands, I would really want to eat some. Yes, this fried rice is too fragrant. The iron palm used to fry rice looks very handsome, but it's not sanitary. When I saw the boss cook the rice just now, he clearly used raw rice. But look now, he didn't even add any water, and it's actually cooked. This was fried rice, not fried rice. I suspect that he cooked it with his hands. Sweat. The teacher had said that sweat contained carboric acid. Oh, so disgusting. The reason why Jiruo's iron palm could cook the rice was actually a special effect attached to the system martial arts technique. It had nothing to do with the sweat on his hands. But these students didn't know. But the fragrance is really fragrant. The students discussed for a while and went to another stall selling fried rice to buy a plate of fried rice. There were many food stalls at the school gate. Every time the students were dismissed from school, a mini food street would be built at the school gate. The students went to other stalls to buy food, then returned to Jiruo's stall and ate while smelling the fragrance. This fragrance really goes well with rice. He and little Rosie stared at each other and saw the confusion in each other's eyes. What was going on with these people? Jiruo couldn't understand. This was indeed the safe stall location that first-line intuition had planned for him. What exactly went wrong? Wait. Jiruo suddenly realized a very serious problem. Could it be that just safety was enough? That was too hasty. You are Jiruo. Suddenly, a familiar voice sounded. Jiruo looked up and saw that it was the homeroom teacher, Li Bin. Hello, teacher. The surrounding students politely greeted Li Bin. In school, Jiruo wasn't famous in the other grades, but the teachers were. After all, there were only a few dozen teachers in a school, so it was easy to find them familiar. Hello, students. Li Bindao greeted the students briefly and looked at Jiruo with a puzzled expression. He asked hesitantly, classmate Jiruo, your hair and where are you now? Teacher, my hair is an accident. I didn't dye it, Jiruo said as he fried rice. You see, I don't have any classes now. I have to wait until tomorrow to do what I promised you. I have nothing to do, so I came out to set up a stall and practice my martial arts at the same time. Set up a stall? Selling fried rice. Li Bin knew about Jiruo's family situation, so he could somewhat understand why Jiruo would do this. Why are you stir-frying it with your hands? Even though Li Bindao had been teaching for many years, he was still stunned at this moment. It's true that you set up a stall to earn money to support your family, but who would buy the fried rice if you didn't cook it? Teacher, I'm practicing the iron palm. Jiruo said. Iron palm? How can your iron palm make fried rice? Wait, when did you learn iron palm? Based on his understanding of Jiruo, the child's current family situation should not be able to support him in cultivating the iron palm. For children like Jiruo, Great Xia only reduced their normal school fees and gave them 1,600 yuan a month as living expenses. It was not that Great Xia did not have the ability to make these children better. It was just that facts had proven that if children who had lost their parents were given enough disposable assets, a large number of children would actually be unable to take care of themselves. A child with assets of tens of millions of yuan could easily learn bad things without the control of his parents. Who would still study hard when they were so rich? The children of those martial artists who died in battle should be given preferential treatment. Great Xia should also nurture those children well. However, what they exchanged their lives for shouldn't be their own children being nurtured by great Xia into trash who only knew how to enjoy life in the future. Therefore, great Xia would only provide these children with the most basic living security. If they wanted to live a better life, they could study hard and practice martial arts. They would have everything they needed. Jiruo, did you use your scholarship? Li Bindao asked hesitantly. If nothing unexpected happens, it will be released on Friday. Chapter 86, Chapter 86, Teacher, is it delicious? Chapter 86, Teacher, is it delicious? The Education Department of Great Xia had set up all kinds of scholarship, and the prize money was exceptionally generous. Most of the scholarship was set to only be applied for by students who met special conditions. His original body naturally had some as well, and there were quite a few of them. However, the money was saved by the original body. It was the money that the original body was going to use to go to university. After Jiruo transmigrated, he did not use that money. So Li Bindao was very puzzled. How did Jiruo learn the iron palm? Did this child use his scholarship? It made sense. However, based on Li Bindao's understanding of Jiruo, this child shouldn't use the scholarship for such a thing. Li Bindao had asked Jiruo in his second year of high school if he wanted to learn some martial arts. He could help contact the coach and the price would definitely be favorable. However, Jiruo had said that he didn't need it. The kid had said that he wouldn't improve much even if he learned it now. It would be a waste of money. In the future, when he advanced to the Chi Meridian realm or went to university, he would be able to learn better. As for the martial examination, Li Bindao still remembered that Jiruo was very free and easy at that time. The young man stood under the sunlight and said with a bright smile, "LF, I'm going to die no matter what. It won't change just because I learned a few martial arts techniques. If I have this time, I might as well polish my foundation." If he really died, the money would be left for others who needed it. At that time, it was the second year of high school, and she hadn't transmigrated yet. Now. No, my scholarship is in the bursary fund of the education department, right? He couldn't take it out even if he didn't go to university. Then your iron palm is. It's made from rice. I was thinking that the main way to train the iron palm was to grind, and the iron sand was 1 grain at a time. The rice was also 1 grain at a time. In any case, no matter how hard he tried, it was still hard work. If he used iron sand to sharpen his body, it would cause too much damage to the body of a martial apprentice. That was why he needed to use medicinal liquid to cultivate. In that case, why not simply use rice to replace iron sand? I thought so and did so. I didn't expect it to really succeed. His progress was a little slow, but it was not to the extent that he could not practice. Li Bindao was shocked. This was the first time he had heard such a theory. There was a certain logic to it, but the problem was. If I'm not mistaken, your iron palm has already reached the acme of perfection, right? Was this something that could be cultivated with rice? Also, why can your iron palm make fried rice? Not all of them. This superb, maybe it's because my aptitude is better? As I practiced, I reached the acme of perfection. Jiruo smacked her lips and said, as for fried rice, to be honest, I'm not too sure either. Maybe it's because I've been practicing my iron palm with rice. Jiruo thought for a moment and said, LF, you must ask me why. I can only say that I'm familiar with it. Thanks to my iron palm that can be used for cooking, class president, and I didn't go hungry these few days at Myriad Beast Mountain, hee. Li Bindao muttered in shock, his techniques are divine, and his characteristics are self-formed. Teacher, what did you say? Jiruo didn't hear him clearly. By the way, do you want a bowl of fried rice? The iron palm was disinfected at high temperature and was absolutely clean and sanitary. Ah, yes, give me one. Li Bindao came back to his senses and took out his money to buy a plate of fried rice with an extremely complicated expression. I'm hungry too. I'll try your cooking. You'll definitely be satisfied. Jiruo chuckled. The surrounding students looked at Li Bin and Jiruo curiously. They did not expect that this white-haired boss was actually a student of Noel Middle School. Moreover, it seemed that he had just taken the martial examination. Li Bindao held the fried rice in a disposable lunchbox and felt the warmth in his palm. He felt a little sad. Although Jiruo suspected that he had redefined the training method of the iron palm and reached the point where the technique was divine and the characteristics were self-contained, he felt a little uncomfortable when he thought that this child had accidentally learned it because he did not have much spare money to practice the real iron palm. Jiruo's iron palm had reached the acme of perfection, presumably because of this, but the reason behind this was too heartbreaking. Li Bindao thought that although Jiruo said it casually, he had put in a lot of effort behind the scenes. There was also that line, LT was all thanks to this iron palm that could be used for cooking in the Myriad Beast Mountain that I didn't go hungry. As the first customer to buy fried rice from the new stall, Jiruo said with anticipation, "Teacher, try it." Li Bindao sighed and forced a smile. "All right, I'll try it." He could tell that something was wrong with one bite. During this period of time, the students who were rescued had been eating all kinds of beast meat and spirit dishes that were helpful to martial apprentices. Although Li Bindao did not eat them, he had come into contact with them quite a bit. Every meal of grade 12 class 4 was personally delivered by him. He didn't feel anything when he smelled the fragrance of the Jiruo fried rice, but after taking a bite, he actually recognized the taste of several kinds of spirit herbs and low-level demon beast meat. Li Bindao pulled Jiruo aside with a serious face and whispered, "Where did you get the ingredients for the fried rice?" "Myriad Beast Mountain." "Do you know that those are spirit herbs and low-level demon beast meat?" "I know." Li Bindao said resentfully, "Then why are you still no? These things were still very precious to martial apprentices. Why did you buy a plate of fried rice for 10 yuan? Just now, he thought that this child was very sensible. How could he suddenly be so wasteful? 10 yuan for one portion, how could you sell it? Teacher knows that you might have some gains in Myriad Beast Mountain this time, but you can't be so reckless. Hurry up and close the stall. The price of your fried rice is too high. If you want to sell it, you can. I don't have much money on me. Wait a moment, I'll make up for the difference." Looking at Li Bindao's flustered appearance, Jiruo quickly pulled him back and said, "Hey, teacher, there's no need. I know what you're talking about." "Then why did you?" "I'm happy," Jiruo said matter-of-factly. Li Bindao wanted to say something, but Jiruo looked at him with sparkling eyes and asked expectantly, "Teacher, is it delicious?" Li Bindao opened his mouth. In a trance, Li Bindao seemed to have seen a teenager who stood under the sun and said with a carefree smile, "If I'm really going to die, the money can be left to others in need." He didn't know if it was an illusion, but the young man from last year and the young man who was standing in front of him now and asking him expectantly if the fried rice was delicious were the same person. However, Li Bindao felt that the figures of the two young men were gradually overlapping under the sunlight at this moment. It was a very strange feeling. It was as if two youths who were originally the same person had finally become the same youth. Li Bindao smiled gratefully. "It's delicious. Of course it's delicious. This is the best fried rice I've ever eaten in my life." Jiruo said with a serious face, "Teacher, you still have a long life ahead of you. It's not auspicious to say such things. Hurry up and say it." 1. Li Bin asked. Why was her good mood suddenly interrupted? Cough cough, student Jiruo, teacher is just using a rhetorical trick. Say it. Jiruo said seriously. Chapter 87, A Teacher, Teaching, and Clearing Doubts. Chapter 87, A Teacher, Teaching, and Clearing Doubts. Classmate Jiruo, it's wrong of you to set up a stall like this. I know that your iron palm has reached the acme of perfection. The temperature is so high that there is no longer a problem of hygiene, Li Bindao said seriously. However, these students didn't know about the problem. They only saw you using your hands to cook rice and not even using water to cook the rice. What would they think? You cooked this rice with your sweaty hands. Classmate Jiruo, think about it. If this is really the case, no matter how fragrant the fried rice is, will you be able to eat it? Jiruo followed Li Bindao's train of thought and couldn't help but shiver. I can't eat it, that's too disgusting. Right. That's where your problem lies, Li Bin said. The students think that your fried rice is dirty and unsanitary. You have to prove it. If you handle this well, it will be your signature. Others can't imitate it. Your business will only get better and better. No one else could imitate it. Li Bindao was convinced that Jiruo's iron palm had reached the level of godlike skill and self-generated characteristics. Even if others could use rice to practice iron palm, they would only be able to make a pile of fried rice at most. Although fried rice and fried rice could be eaten, they were indeed different. Then what do you think I should do, teacher? Jiruo asked thoughtfully. Simple. Your iron palm should be able to produce flames in the void now, right? Asked Li Bin. That's enough. This is your way of proving it. Go and cast void flame in front of the students, said Li Bin. Oh. Jiruo obediently raised her hands in front of her stall. White flames rose from her palms. The temperature was so high that it even distorted the air. The white flames danced on Jiruo's palms, but there was no pain on Jiruo's face. The surrounding students exclaimed. Li Bindao went to the flower bed and broke off a small branch, extending it into the flames in Jiruo's palm. The branch was ignited in an instant. Li Bindao raised the branch and shouted, "Take a look." This little boss iron sand palm had already reached perfection. When he activated his palm power, it was thousands of degrees high, and it was easy to kill poison and bacteria. It was absolutely clean and sanitary. Students, Have you ever seen the iron sand palm at the acme of perfection? Have you ever eaten rice cooked with iron palm? Haven't eaten it before? Then he couldn't miss such a good opportunity. It was delicious and affordable. Jiruo was dumbfounded as he saw Lee Bindeo standing in front of the stall and shouting for him. His head was buzzing. The students had originally been disgusted by Jiruo's cooking, but after Lee Bindeo said that Jiruo's iron palm had reached the acme of perfection, they were all excited. The water in the wild would be disinfected if it was boiled to 100 degrees Celsius, but Jiruo's iron palm had a temperature of over 1000 degrees Celsius. Moreover, that was a superb iron palm. Boss. Your iron palm is really superb. Give me a serving. I knew that the rice cooked with martial arts techniques looked so handsome. How could it not be sanitary? Me too, me too. For a moment, Jiruo was extremely busy, smiling. Rosie held a small stick and walked through the crowd, meowing to maintain order. Little Huang, after the child arrived at the entrance of Noel Middle School, he carried the basin of rice and went to a place a little further away to practice his iron palm. Lee Bindeo happily helped Jiruo. This time, it wasn't Jiruo's happiness that infected others, but the happiness of others. When it was close to 1 o'clock, Jiruo finally sold out the last plate of fried rice. Jiruo, remember this. If you encounter a similar situation in the future, you must tell me your selling point immediately. Also, I think you're quite sensible. If I remember correctly, you brought this little guy out of the mythical realm, right? The teacher didn't ask too much, but there was one thing you had to remember. Although this little guy was obedient and cute, it still looked like an ordinary cat. It was better not to let the little cat get involved in cooking. Otherwise, some people would feel disgusted and feel that there was cat hair mixed in the fried rice. Also, Lee Bindeo patiently pointed out many of Jiruo's shortcomings. His experienced appearance made him look like a stall king who had been in the industry for many years. Teacher, how do you know so much about this? Jiruo asked hesitantly. Lee Bindeo looked at Jiruo and suddenly smiled. I'm a teacher. If I don't know more, how can I teach my students? If a student asked me something and I couldn't answer, wouldn't that be a joke? It seems so too. Haha, alright, that's all I have to say. Classmate Jiruo, are you still coming this afternoon? Come on, why not? Setting up a stall is fun, hee hee. Then I'll continue to help you in the afternoon. Lee Bindeo joked with a smile. Alright, teacher. I don't dare to say anything else, but I'll definitely provide enough food. Do you really think I'm your employee? Lee Bin scolded with a smile. Ha 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 ha. On campus. Lee Bindeo recalled the scene just now and suddenly remembered Jiruo's sorry appearance when he came back 2 days ago. This young man seemed to be very happy. I'm looking forward to what Jiruo's classmates will do tomorrow. Wait, happy? Lee Bindeo suddenly froze. He had originally planned to ask Jiruo and Liang Shixian to come back to school to share their exam experience with the students. He had thought that Jiruo had only set up a stall at the school gate on a whim. But thinking about it carefully, it didn't necessarily have to be set up at the school gate. He even added spirit herbs and demon beast meat. This was probably what she wanted to express, right? Lee Bindeo suddenly realized that Jiruo and Liang Shixian's experience in the mythical realm might not have much reference value for other students. Jiruo must have known this, so he chose to explain it in such a way, right? He was neither arrogant nor impatient, always innocent and always happy. This young man didn't seem to have said anything, but he also seemed to have said everything. He turned back to look at the direction of the school gate and suddenly laughed. After some thought, Lee Bindeo took out his phone and made a call. Hello. Principal Cai, do you remember Jiruo from our class? Yes. It was the one who returned from Myriad Beast Mountain 2 days ago. Aren't we going to let the students come back to school tomorrow to listen to them share their experiences? Well, I think. I'm so eager. That's 2 children's experiences may not be suitable for other students to refer to. Students now need not to preach. Yes, that child was coming in the afternoon. Okay, then I'll inform the other colleagues in the work group. He hung up the phone. Lee Bindeo sighed and began to write an announcement in the teacher's work group. In his description, Jiruo had become a perfect child. His parents were dead, and he was living in poverty, but his results were still among the best in his grade. He even passed the martial examination without any injuries. In short, he did not mention anything about the large scholarship that Jiruo-kun had used to go to university. A polished group announcement moved the other teachers. During this period of time, all the students in the 3rd year of Yunchang First Middle School had a strong dislike for martial arts. If that student named Jiruo was really as outstanding as Lee Bindeo said, he would definitely be the best teaching material. Is the child coming back in the afternoon? A teacher asked in the group. Yes, I'll be back in the afternoon. Alright, I'll inform the students in our class now and ask them to come and study in the afternoon. I've been so worried recently. I want to comfort them, but I don't know how to do so. Old Lee, you're a good student. Lee Bindeo replied cheerfully, it's all that child's own hard work. It has nothing to do with me. After thinking for a while, Lee Bindeo also informed the students in his class. He didn't inform Liang Shixian. After all, the child had just finished surgery and needed to rest more. Chapter 88, A Child, 1. Chapter 88, A Child, 1. Little Huang, how's your training going? Jiruo pushed Huang with a small cart and slowly walked towards the park. Now that the students had dispersed, there was no use for him to continue staying at the school gate. He might as well go back to the park to help clean up and practice his skills to increase his proficiency. If he was lucky, he might be able to increase the progress of sincere praise from the elders. Boss, is that school the best middle school in Yuncheng? Huang asked hesitantly. Jiruo was stunned for a moment before she smiled and asked, what is the best? The students were strong? Or is it because they have strong teachers? Little Huang, how can there be the best school in the world? Jiruo continued. Teachers teach and educate people, students live in harmony, study hard and improve every day. A school that could allow children to grow up healthily was a good school. As the saying goes, the master leads the way, but the cultivation depends on the individual. If the atmosphere of a school can make you happy, then it's a good school. But some schools have higher cut-off points, Little Huang said in confusion. Everyone says that the higher the cut-off point, the better the school. I heard that Noel Middle School just now has the highest cut-off point in the city. It was also the school that his parents wanted him to go to. Little Huang said in his heart, feeling a little down. Personally, I don't think it's right to judge a child's good or bad with scores. At least, it's not completely correct. Think about it, Huang. Are all the children in your class good? Jiruo asked. Huang recalled carefully, LT seems like it's like this. Right? Grades were just a screening method to gather positive students. Although not all students with good grades were good children, at least most of them were. With more good students, the school would naturally be better. Little Huang, the quality of a school depends on whether the students in the school are outstanding and happy. It has nothing to do with grades and results. Do you want to go to Noel Middle School? Jiruo suddenly asked. If you can get into Noel Middle School, will you be happy? When Little Huang heard this, he was a little confused. I don't know, but Mom and Dad want me to go. Then, will Mom and Dad be happy that you got into Noel Middle School? He should be, right? If Daddy and Mommy are happy, will you be happy? Little Huang, you have to work hard. Jiruo smiled and rubbed the child's head. Study hard, practice martial arts hard, and work hard to be a good child that your parents like. Don't let them worry, and don't let them down. Huang seemed to understand, but he nodded vigorously, yes. I will work hard and not disappoint my parents. Under the guidance of the system teacher, Jiruo's mentality gradually became more and more pure. He was like a big child who couldn't grow up. As long as he was happy. Now, this white-haired child was teaching a child how to be a good child. Huang wasn't a bad kid by nature. Although his temper was a little unpleasant at times, it was because he was still young. Moreover, something had happened to his parents. No one was born knowing. Everyone made mistakes. Insensible people needed to be taught. Back at the park. Jiruo didn't see Lu Jinshun. This auntie seemed to have gotten off work. Now, another gardener auntie was busy in the park. Jiruo didn't mind. He could increase his proficiency by helping anyway. If they weren't the same person, he might be able to increase the progress of sincere praise from the elders. The young man asked Little Huang to go to the side to practice boxing while Luo Jian went to the park to have fun. Jiruo's Taiji fist was divided into two parts, training methods and fighting methods. The training method was mainly to cultivate one's body and strengthen one's body. It was not lethal. For Little Huang, learning the training method was enough. Internal martial arts was more suitable for a child of Huang's age than other basic martial arts. It would not leave any internal injuries. Jiruo taught Huang the simplified 24 forms of Taiji. What Jiruo was using to clean up was the complete Taiji fist. To trigger the special effect of sweeping the floor, he needed the assistance of his chi meridians. With Little Huang's current level, he could not learn it. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, it was already afternoon. Jiruo's saber and sword duality buff was still quite a distance away from the second level. The proficiency of this buff was ridiculously high. Just a basic understanding of it required 50,000 proficiency points. If Jiruo finished clearing a patch of grass in the park, he would only get a few dozen or 100 proficiency points. But thinking about it, It made sense. Cutting grass with a wooden stick actually increased Jiruo's proficiency in all the sword and sword skills he had mastered. It was understandable that it was a little difficult to farm. After playing a piece of lawn, if you look at it, look at the time. Auntie, I still have to set up a stall at the school gate. That's all for today. Oh, you still want to set up a stall? You've helped me a lot today. I don't even know how to thank you. No need to thank me, no need to thank me. Jiruo smiled and said, I'm having fun too. Play. The auntie was stunned. She looked down at the flat lawn under her feet and recalled the happy look on Jiruo's face when she waved the small wooden stick to hit the grass. She also remembered the pure smile on her face. Suddenly, she felt that her mood had improved. What a good child, the auntie said sincerely. Hence, the progress from sincere praise from an elder increased by 1 again. Current, 5/10. He was getting closer and closer to the next stage of achievement reward. Ruo could not help but look forward to the next stage of achievement upgrade. After finding Luo Jian and calling Hu Wang, Jiruo pushed the cart towards the school. Passing by a grocery store, Jiruo remembered Li Bindao's instructions and went to the grocery store to buy a roll of plastic wrap. Here, Rosie, I'll get you a pair of gloves. Meow are gloves. Luo Jian squatted on Jiruo's shoulder and asked curiously. It's something that can wrap up your little paws. Jiruo said as she used plastic wrap to make 4 simple gloves for little Luo Jian. This way, when it comes into contact with water, your fur won't get wet. Meow. So beautiful. Rosie happily raised her claws. Although the binding feeling from her claws made her feel a little uncomfortable, this feeling was really fresh and interesting. Hu Wang had been practicing Taiji Fist for the whole afternoon and was exhausted. Back at the entrance of Noel Middle School, the child remembered what Jiruo had said to him earlier. He also remembered that Jiruo had helped the gardener weed in the park just now and received praise from the gardener. A school where good children go is a good school. Little Hu Wang was deep in thought. He looked at those high school students and suddenly felt that they weren't that annoying anymore. He wanted to be a good child. Boss, I'm here to help you. Chapter 89, Clean and Pure, 1. Chapter 89, Clean and Pure, 1. Meow meow, line up. Meow, don't squeeze. Meow meow, 1 by 1. Rosie waved her little claws and jumped around on the shoulders of the students. Her innate talent had changed to agility. Even a Chi Meridian realm martial artist like Jiruo felt that Luo Jian's movements were unusually graceful. Not to mention these high school students who were only martial apprentices. Yeah. Why did this kitten jump onto me? You scared me. What a cute little kitten. And little gloves, this is too cute. My heart is about to melt. In the afternoon, Jiruo's reputation seemed to have spread among the students. Everyone seemed to know that there was a white-haired senior who set up a stall at the school gate. His iron palm was superb, and the food he cooked was especially delicious. As soon as the students were dismissed from school, Jiruo's stall was surrounded by many students. Luo Jian and Hu Wang, who had wrapped their paws in plastic wrap, were responsible for maintaining the order of the team as the Air Force and Ground Force. As a result, more and more students gathered around. A cute little black kitten was jumping around on her shoulder. It was too cute. Not only the students, but even some of the stall owners nearby couldn't help but come over to join in the fun. If the business here was too good, there wasn't much business on their side. However, these stall owners did not mind. Jiruo's iron palm was at the acme of perfection, and it was also a little kitten with full spiritual intelligence who helped to attract business. It was full of characteristics, so it was normal for business to be good. Who wouldn't find it fresh? Not far away, the principal and a few teachers of Noel Middle School watched Jiruo busy himself. The principal said to Li Bin, Teacher Li, I think I can understand you a little. Is this what this child is trying to tell us? No matter what difficulties or fears, life still had to continue. This child was not bad at all. Li Bindao smiled and said, I didn't expect this child's comprehension to be so high. 2 days ago, I asked him to take some time to come back to school to share his experience with the students and help them re-establish their confidence in martial arts. He told me at that time that he wanted me to see his performance when the time comes. To be honest, I really didn't expect him to behave like this. However, it seemed that his method was indeed much better than simply sharing his experience in the exam. The teacher at the side nodded and said, Indeed, the atmosphere of the mortal world caresses the hearts of mortals the most. Such a simple principle, but none of us teachers can understand it thoroughly. He had been thinking about all sorts of things during this period of time, and he did not know what he was worried about. Ha ha ha. The teachers laughed. The principal suddenly said, We can't just watch. Let's go and help. Let's go. I like this child just by looking at him. Students, Line up properly. Don't tire the kittens out. Jiruo was surprised to see a group of teachers come over to help him maintain order. Even the principal rolled up his sleeves and helped cut the vegetables. Classmate Jiruo, don't just stand there. There are so many students waiting. Why? Did the teachers scare you? The principal asked with a smile. No, principal, how could you bring the teachers to help me? Jiruo asked in a daze. I can't afford to pay you guys with my small business. The teachers were stunned. Go away, Li Bin scolded with a smile. Who wants your wages? Can't we do voluntary labor? The students burst into laughter. The laughter was pure happiness and kindness. Little Huang looked at this group of people in a daze. He did not understand why everyone was laughing. For some reason, he seemed to understand why Yuncheng First Middle School was the best middle school in Yuncheng. The suppressed grief in his heart slowly dissipated. Jiruo was extremely busy. Now that his chi meridians had split, the innate talent of more is good, big is strong had increased Jiruo's chi and blood power by several times compared to his peers. The iron palm was not a martial technique that consumed a lot of energy. The iron palm at the acme of perfection was extremely fast when used to fry these ordinary rice. The ingredients that Jiruo had prepared were quickly consumed. The youth roughly estimated the amount of ingredients left and said loudly, "Students at the back, don't line up. Everyone is too enthusiastic. I didn't prepare enough ingredients today." The stall owner who was watching from the side smiled and said, "Don't, little boss. Your business is too good. We don't have much business anymore. We've already prepared the ingredients. Isn't it a pity that we can't sell them? If you don't have enough, you can use mine." As he spoke, the stall owner actually intended to bring over the ingredients he had prepared. "Little boss, can you stir-fry noodles with your iron palm?" Ah. Jiruo was a little confused. "How much are these ingredients?" "I'll pay you." "No need, no need. How much can these things cost?" The stall owner smiled and said, "This is the first time I've heard that a stall can be set up so happily. I'll give you the ingredients. I'm happy to see the students happy." "That won't do. How can I take advantage of you?" Jiruo quickly said. "These few days, because of that incident, the students have rarely laughed. I'm not a powerful martial artist, so there's nothing I can do about it." "Hey, what do you mean by taking advantage of me?" A slightly rough-looking stall owner happily moved the ingredients he had prepared from his stall to Jiruo's stall. "I'm happy to. It's free, little boss. Let your kitten take a photo with me. I really like this little guy. It's just that this little guy looks a little afraid of me. Just now, I deliberately cut in line, but she actually didn't jump onto my shoulder. Ha ha ha. I already told you to shave your beard. Look, even the kittens don't want to get close to you now. Nonsense. I'm manly. Ha 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 ha." The long-lost laughter appeared at the entrance of Noel Middle School. The young people laughed wantonly. The loss of the martial exam was heavy and sad, but the living were still alive, and life had to continue. Some of the students teased Luo Jian on purpose, causing her to complain to Jiruo angrily. She squatted on Jiruo's shoulder and pointed at the students who had just chased after her. She shouted, "Meow, meow, meow, they're bullying me. They're so bad." When the students saw this, they laughed so hard that they fell back and forth. "She's too cute. She actually knows how to complain. I can't, this old man's young girl heart." Jiruo comforted Luo Jian cheerfully. A student saw the scene and suddenly took out his phone to take a photo. In the photo, those who bought fried rice were squatting by the roadside and eating heartily. The principal and teachers helped to deal with the ingredients and maintain order. A few students made faces at the kitten. A primary school student with some bruises on his face carried a garbage bag and put away the disposable lunch boxes that the students had finished eating. The vendors moved the ingredients from their stalls over and let the white-haired little boss handle them. In the center of the screen, the white-haired little boss tilted his head, as if he was talking to a kitten. The apron on his body was covered in oil, but it gave off an inexplicable clean and pure feeling. The little kitten squatted on little boss's shoulder and made a face angrily. Everyone's face was filled with a smile that came from the bottom of their hearts. The student looked at the photo in a daze, and the corners of his mouth curled up unconsciously. He opened his moments and selected a picture to post. "I'm happy." Chapter 90, Rushing for an All-Nighter. Chapter 90, Rushing for an All-Nighter. This happy and inexplicable open-air banquet lasted until evening. Punch in. Jiruo was a little surprised that this characteristic had suddenly increased by 1%, but he didn't think too much about it. If one person cooked, it was naturally impossible for everyone to eat in a short period of time. Some students could not wait and bought food from other stalls. Jiruo's fried rice had a delicious +3 effect, but the effect was not very obvious. The students were not professional gourmets, so they only knew that Jiruo's fried rice was better than the food prepared by other stall owners, but they did not feel it was real. To them, happiness was more important. This dinner was the happiest they had ever had. It was already past class time. Seeing that the atmosphere was so good, the principal simply gave the students a break. The evening self-study session was cancelled, and the students cheered. The banquet ended. Wang Yun called to ask for Jiruo's location and came to pick up Hu Wang from first middle school. Before he left, little Hu Wang hesitated for a moment before he mustered up his courage and said, "Boss, I won't come to look for you tomorrow." Why? Hu Wang said, "Boss, you're right. A school where good students go is a good school. I have to work hard to become a good student and live up to my parents' expectations. I have to study hard and get into a good school. So I have to go back to class tomorrow. It's wrong to skip class." Wang Yun looked at Hu Wang in surprise, then looked at Jiruo. She couldn't understand what kind of magic this young man had. How could Hu Wang change so much in just a day? Jiruo smiled and rubbed Hu Wang's head. "Yes, you're right. Skipping class isn't something a good child should do. Then, goodbye, boss." Hu Wang waved his hand. "Goodbye. Phew, I'm finally done." Liang Shixian looked at the 3 full pages of manuscript in front of him and felt satisfied. This speech was written by him combining some of the actual situation, as well as some personal opinions and analysis. Although he and Jiruo had a good time in the secret realm, they had been running for the first few days. His cautiousness at that time, Liang Shixian still had a headache thinking about it. At that time, Jiruo greeted the others as soon as he came up. "It doesn't seem to work either." Liang Shixian suddenly frowned. "I have to write a new one." He polished it again, from the choice of words and sentences to the examples. He did not put in a lot of effort, but he also put in a lot of effort. It had to be thought-provoking, realistic, and realistic. 2 hours later, Liang Shixian suddenly felt a little lost as he looked at the brand new script in his hand. It doesn't seem like I can bring it out." He began to think about where the problem lay. A moment later, he finally found the problem. Once it involved real experiences, this speech could no longer be used as a reference. Liang Shixian scratched his head. He started to modify it again. The next day. "Mom, I'm going back to school. I'm a man and can go to school alone. You don't have to worry about me. Mom, I'll come back to see you after school at noon. You have to recuperate well, listen to the doctor, and eat on time." The boy recalled the words of concern he had learned from somewhere. He rubbed his eyes hard, carried his bag, and walked out of the ward. Ha! Liang Shixian changed back into his school uniform with 2 big dark circles under his eyes and walked out of the ward. He had given up the ward, but there was a sofa in the ward. Liang Shixian looked curiously at the little boy in the next ward. He remembered very clearly that there was a patrolling martial artist who had lost both his legs and was still unconscious. Seeing Liang Shixian, the boy hesitated for a moment and said with a smile, "Good morning." Liang Shixian was stunned for a moment before he replied with a smile, "Good morning." After leaving the hospital, Liang Shixian, who was pushing a brand new bicycle, subconsciously reached out and touched his abdomen. Because there were still some of the body growing fruit, he recovered very quickly. There was only a faint white mark left on his abdomen, and even the stitches were not clear. He called Jiruo and found out that Jiruo was also planning to go to school, so he hopped on his bicycle. The powerful physical fitness of the Chi Pulse realm allowed him to run as fast as he could. This bicycle was the reward that Father Liang had promised him. Liang Shixian was in a good mood as he felt the wind whistling past his ears. He had spent the entire night writing a satisfactory speech. This sharing would definitely help many students regain their confidence in martial arts. Liang Shixian went through the contents of the speech in his mind again and was full of confidence. Liang Shixian parked his bicycle at the flag-raising square. The school leaders, teachers, and students from the various classes were already in place. Jiruo had not arrived yet. Liang Shixian originally wanted to wait, but... "Liang Shixian, you're here." The principal was all smiles and seemed to be in a good mood. "How's your recovery?" Liang Shixian scratched his head. "Principal, I'm not actually injured. I just had my appendix removed." Note that he was removing it, not cutting it, because the wild appendix was actually in a wild state. It was only in his body, not connected. "I can't do it without taking it." Except for Jiruo, everyone was already in position. He felt that he could not wait any longer, so he took a deep breath and said, "Principal, Jiruo is still on the way. Since everyone is here, I'll start first. Jiruo and I have been together for this martial examination." "All right, then I'll have to trouble you, Liang Shixian." Liang Shixian walked up to the flag-raising platform. As the class monitor, Liang Shixian must have experienced similar situations. However, even he rarely experienced such a grand scene. Secondly, he knew very well that more than 90% of his speech was fabricated. Only the feeling is true, it's just a big load. Looking at the crowd below the flag-raising platform, Liang Shixian was a little nervous and a little guilty. Taking a deep breath, Liang Shixian adjusted his emotions slightly. Respected teachers, dear students, hello. I'm the class monitor of grade 12 class 4, Liang Shixian. I'm very happy to have this opportunity to stand here and share with everyone. For this martial examination, He clasped his hands behind his back and held the script tightly, trying to make his voice sound even more full. Lying in public made his voice tremble slightly. However, it had to be said that Liang Shixian's speech was really well written. However, for some reason, as Liang Shixian spoke, he suddenly realized that the students and teachers below the stage gradually had a blank expression on their faces. Before Jiruo arrived, Liang Shixian suddenly felt uneasy. Based on his understanding of Jiruo, although Jiruo wasn't very serious most of the time, he should be a little more serious in this situation, right? There shouldn't be any trouble, right? Probably. Chapter 91, Chapter 91, Give up, Give up. Chapter 91, Give up, Give up. On the flag-raising square, the teachers' and students' hearts became heavier. Was Liang Shixian's speech not well written? Good, of course it was good. He explained the profound in simple terms and was full of emotions. However, it was precisely because it was so good that the ordinary dangers that Liang Shixian had embellished shocked the students and the teachers. Yesterday, many students had attended the open-air banquet. Even those who did not attend had seen the videos posted by other students on their WeChat moments. They were all infected by the pure happiness in the video. Seeing how happy Jiruo was, they subconsciously felt that Jiruo and Liang Shixian's combat examination was actually quite easy. The teenagers' fear did not last long. They all yearned for Jiruo's happiness. Some of them even regretted that they had received the news too late yesterday and missed the strange and happy banquet. At this moment, the only person on the field who didn't know what had happened at school yesterday was Liang Shixian. The class monitor had been writing the entire night. It was true that a large portion of his manuscript was fabricated. However, because it was made up and Liang Shixian spent a night polishing it, people who had similar experiences were very impressed. As everyone listened, they fell silent. I didn't expect these two children to be like this in the myriad beast mountain. Li Bindao sighed. The principal also sighed. The truth often hurt people, and the truth was the same. He should have thought of this long ago. The lucky cases of surviving to the end could not be used as a reference for other students. Jiruo had been so happy yesterday and had told them something in a special way. The teachers had thought that Liang Shixian would be similar to Jiruo. In the end, the real cruel experience would only amplify the fear that existed in the hearts of other students. The atmosphere in the flag-raising square was getting more and more oppressive. Liang Shixian's voice stuttered. It seemed like he had used too much strength. His manuscript focused on describing all kinds of dangers. Although each story relied on tenacity and unyielding to survive at the end, the tone of the entire manuscript was actually a sharp sword is honed. However, the students who had witnessed life and death with their own eyes could only hear the word toughening. The martial examination was too cruel. Is everyone here? Suddenly, a curious voice came from the side of the square. It was as if something had pierced through the oppressive atmosphere in the flag-raising square. Everyone subconsciously looked in that direction. Has it already started? Sorry, I didn't expect everyone to be here so early, so I went to sell some breakfast. Sorry. Jiruo pushed the cart to the flag-raising platform, parked the cart, and brought Luo Jian up to the platform. Suddenly, among the silent students, someone in the square formation of grade 12 class 4 shouted. Is what the class monitor said true? Is it really that dangerous during the exam? Jiruo was stunned for a moment and looked at Liang Shixian. I'm sorry, Jiruo, Liang Shixian said apologetically in a low voice, I seem to have used too much force. Jiruo looked at his self-reproach and the dark circles under his eyes. How could he not know how much effort he had put in? As a very responsible class monitor, Liang Shixian definitely wanted to motivate the students. However, Liang Shixian did not expect that what the students needed now was not any motivation. What they needed was to relax. Liang Shixian was only a teenager and couldn't cover everything. He realized that he seemed to have done something bad out of kindness, so he blamed himself. But it was not a big problem. Don't worry, class president, everything is under control. Jiruo suddenly laughed. It depends on my performance. The white-haired youth faced the crowd below the stage and laughed loudly. That's right, what the class monitor said is true. The process was even more dangerous than he had described. He tells you that everything, he spent his thoughts, embellished and polished the entire world. Jiruo continued, the class monitor and I had just entered Myriad Beast Mountain when we encountered a group of emerald snakes. Let me tell you, although those emerald snakes were barely a 1-star, there were really a lot of them. As far as the eye could see, there were emerald snakes everywhere on the lawn. The number of snakes was enough to make one's scalp go numb. After that, we were chased by the stinger hornets until we ran away like rats. Those stinger hornets were as big as watermelons, and their stinger was fast and sharp. We were chased by the 9-eyed demon spider, and we saw the patrolling martial artist poisoned and captured by the spider queen. He was dying in the nest of the 9-eyed demon spider. The earth vein twist on the 3rd day of the martial examination transported me and the class monitor to the high-level area of the Myriad Beast Mountain. Students, have you ever seen a giant fish swimming in the sky? Have you ever seen a giant ape that was comparable to a mountain? We've met before. As far as the eye can see, there are only high-level demon beasts. Any one of them can kill me and the class monitor with a single breath. The students couldn't help but tremble when they imagined that scene. It was too terrifying. Jiruo. Liang Shixian quickly pulled Jiruo back. Even his script didn't go this far. At most, they would encounter goblins or a large number of slimes. The high-level demon Liang Shixian did not mention a word. Jiruo patted Liang Shixian's shoulder and said, "Don't worry, class president. Everything is under control." "Then how did you survive?" asked a student. "How did he survive?" Jiruo smiled and said, "This is a bit complicated. I don't think you can learn it even if I tell you." The students were even more desperate. Jiruo. Don't say any more. Liang Shixian saw that some students could not help but start crying, so he quickly pulled Jiruo back. However, he wasn't as strong as Jiruo, so he couldn't pull her. Students, think about it. Are you afraid of that kind of situation? Jiruo struggled. Are you desperate? That's right. Fear, cowardice, and despair are all human nature. As long as you are human, you will be afraid. But I'm afraid I can only wait for my death quietly. Jiruo shouted. When we encountered the stinger hornets, the class monitor wanted to stay behind to cover the rear. He wanted to rely on his iron skin, which had barely reached the beginner level, to block the stinger hornets' poisonous stingers. Liang Shixian was stunned. In the nest of the 9-eyed demon spider, that patrolling martial artist was clearly poisoned and couldn't even stand steadily, but she still used her last bit of strength to kill a way out for us. Students. Martial arts is like this, at least according to my understanding. It's impossible for there to be no danger. I didn't come here today to persuade you to give up. This is human nature. No one will blame you. I just want to say, before you give up, think about those figures who stood in front of you in the Myriad Beast Mountain a few days ago. Don't they have family? Would they not be afraid when they face demons and death? The students fell silent again. You're asking me how I survived? My life was exchanged for by someone else. Jiruo shouted. I'm an orphan. Since I was young, the food I eat, the clothes I wear, the streets I walk on, the smiles I've seen. Why did these things exist? It was someone else's life that was exchanged for it? Do you think I can just waste my life? Every brick and every mouthful of hot food in the city was exchanged for by the martial artists with their lives. Of course, you can give up, of course, you can choose to live comfortably. Before the exam, the principal also said that people would die in the martial exam. If you don't want to take the exam, you can withdraw. No one will blame you. Did anyone give up? No, he didn't. Then why are you giving up now? You might not have seen anyone protect themselves with their lives before, but you persisted. Why did he give up after seeing others sacrifice their lives for him? Liang Shixian was silent for a moment, then suddenly stood beside Jiruo and puffed out his chest. He didn't plan to stop Jiruo. Jiruo was right. If you want to give up, fine. No one will blame you. I don't want to waste my breath persuading you. But those who don't want to give up. Jiruo suddenly said. Chapter 92, Thoughts on the Shelves. Chapter 92, Thoughts on the Shelves. Ahem, if nothing unexpected happened, it would be on sale at O. According to the usual practice, I should be acting pitiful at this time. I thought about it for a long time and finally made up a story. Ahem, I wrote a very miserable acceptance speech. Click to see the details. That's right, you didn't see wrongly. I'm just that miserable. I'm just kidding. Actually, I personally think that the situation isn't that bad. I'm currently at the border to prevent epidemic diseases. When I'm on patrol, I'm less than 2 meters away from Vietnam. The two countries are separated by a tall and long iron net. On one side of the net is our country, and on the other side is another country. The environment here was quite tough. The internet was poor, the roads were difficult to walk on, and there were few people. Some outposts don't even have normal toilets. They're all latrines dug by us epidemic prevention personnel. The walkie-talkie was switched on 24 hours a day. No matter when or where the iron net had a problem, they had to go and check it out immediately. Although the conditions were a little harsh, he was actually quite happy. After working here for a few months, I've come to realize that people are best at finding joy in hardship. Usually, when he was free, the internet was a little bad because it was deep in the mountains and forests. Sometimes, it was not very convenient to go online. The uncles at the outpost would bring me to the forest to climb trees and pick fruits. Occasionally, they would see some perfectly shaped branches, and they would break them off to make a slingshot to shoot pheasants and improve my diet. After the meal, everyone gathered around the bonfire to listen to the stories of the past. The dancing flames in the middle made everyone's faces turn red, and the atmosphere was especially good. I don't know if it's miserable or not, but I'm really happy. I wanted to pass on this happiness and the ease of finding joy in hardship, so I had this book. Maybe there were some problems with my writing, but I really put in a lot of effort. There will definitely be updates when it's released, but I don't dare to say how much it will be. I also don't dare to set a target for updates. I usually have to patrol. After all, I have to prevent the epidemic. This was a last-minute message. It might be a little messy, but it shouldn't affect anything. In short, I'm asking for a quote. I wish everyone happy, forever young. Chapter 93, Chapter 93, A Little Red Flower for a Good Child, 1. Chapter 93, A Little Red Flower for a Good Child, 1. On the flag-raising platform, Jiruo looked at the hundreds of familiar and unfamiliar faces below and suddenly felt a little dazed. Since his transmigration, excluding the system's teachings to him, the people and things around him were affecting him. At the same time, he was also affecting others. Those who don't want to give up, I want to give you a song. The white-haired young man stood on the flag-raising platform, facing hundreds of people and singing loudly. Where is the world full of flowers? If it really exists, I'll definitely go. I want to stand on the highest mountain. I don't care if it's a cliff or not. Jiruo didn't seem to have sung this song with much effort. At first glance, the voice didn't sound pleasant. I've never chosen to give up on my ideals, even in my dusty days. Maybe I don't have talent, but I have the naivete of dreams. I will prove it my whole life. The song was like a young man stubbornly announcing to the world, and some of the students were at a loss. Maybe my hands are a little clumsy, but I'm willing to keep searching. I'll give up all my youth and leave no regrets. The moment the lyrics came out, the students who had originally thought that the song was about to be sung were suddenly stunned. The pitch was raised at this moment, and everyone felt as if their souls were fiercely touched by something. Title, Soul Singer. The next moment. Run forward. With the pride of a child. How could one feel the vastness of life without experiencing hardships? Jiruo's voice even broke. This line was completely shouted out. It looked a little funny, but no one laughed. In an instant, everyone had goosebumps. He felt as if his entire soul was trembling. Continue running. With the pride of a child. If one didn't persevere to the end, how could one see the radiance of life? Rather than struggling to survive, it's better to burn to your heart's content. There will be a day when they will be able to grow. All the teachers and students stared at Jiruo with burning eyes. Being unhappy after failure is a sign of cowardice. As long as you have a breath, please clench your fists. It was normal for young people to be afraid of death. However, youth could not be filled with only fear. Youth should have blazing blood and pure dreams. As the students listened, they suddenly felt ashamed, and the flames in their hearts grew stronger. The young man continued to sing loudly. When the chorus came up for the second time, all the teachers and students under the flag-raising platform suddenly joined in and sang at the top of their lungs. Soul Singer's empathy effect triggered, Soul King's effect triggered. The effect of emotional enchantment had increased. The power in the depths of the listener's soul was triggered. It was youth. It was hot-blooded. It was woo-wee. The young man smiled and sang the last line of the lyrics, "One won't compromise until I'm old. Forever young, never old." The students cried and re-established their martial arts hearts. Liang Shixian was also crying uncontrollably, repeating the phrase "I won't compromise until I'm old" over and over again. Little Luo Qian saw that everyone was crying and also sobbed on top of Jiruo's head, but there were only sobs and no tears. This little guy wasn't empathized at all. The principal wiped his tears. This child sings really well. It should be like this. The teachers were also a little emotional, and their eyes were red. Hot-blooded and fearless, youth without regrets. This is what youth should look like, what a teenager should look like. The teachers wiped away their tears and praised Jiruo. Good child, I haven't seen such a good child in a long time. Before the teacher could finish his words of praise, Jiruo suddenly jumped off the flag-raising platform and rushed towards them. Teacher, are you complimenting me? Come, come, praise me in front of me. She was crying from singing, so she must be sincere. The teachers. What the F***ck? Their emotions were interrupted on the spot, causing the teachers' emotions to become incoherent. There were still tears on the teachers' faces, and their expressions were a little stiff. Jiruo was a little disappointed. If she had known earlier, she would have pulled these teachers along to sing a duet. She would definitely have received praise at the first moment. Good job, child. A teacher suddenly gave Jiruo a thumbs up. Sincere praise from an elder, progress +1. Jiruo immediately beamed with joy. Thank you, teacher. A few more words of praise, a few more words of praise. The teachers were stunned for a moment before they burst into laughter. It didn't matter if his emotions were coherent or not. Such a child deserved praise. They were not stingy with their praise, and every praise was sincere. In the blink of an eye, sincere praise from an elder's progress was full. Congratulations to the host for unlocking the stage achievement. Unlocked Good Child's Reward. You can use Good Child's little red flower to exchange for achievement rewards. Remark, a sincere compliment is like a little red flower. Remark, the child with the most red flowers is the best child. Remark, your every compliment is my motivation to move forward. Remark, I will not disappoint you. Jiruo was overjoyed. He had thought that he would be given a new chance to level up after completing the phase achievement. He didn't expect it to unlock the exchange module. The 10 sincere praises that were used to unlock the achievement had all turned into little red flowers. The teachers were still praising him. Although each elder could only give Jiruo one little red flower, after a round of praise, Jiruo's little red flowers had risen to 31. He couldn't wait to call out the newly unlocked Good Child's Reward. The material rewards that could be exchanged for achievements were all matched with each achievement. The physical reward for the Function Achievement Gold Tour Guide was a pair of plain-looking sports shoes. Its name was Gold Tour Guide Sports Shoes That Don't Get Lost or Dirty. The material reward for the Martial Arts Achievement Iron Palm Extending Within the Mine was a pair of black gloves with half of the fingers exposed. It was called the Gripping, Non-Slipping, and Rapid Rubbing Gloves. The material reward for Weapon to Achievement: if a young man holds the staff, he will be able to lower his eyebrows for 10 miles. It was 2 small wooden sticks that looked like a knife and a sword respectively. Its name was a wooden stick that can't be hit no matter how one. Other than that, there were photo albums, picture books, toothbrushes, toy microphones. The images of all the items on the list were simple and crude chalk drawings. They were crooked and looked like child's doodles. Every achievement had a matching material reward, and the number of small red flowers required was different. The names of each material reward were rather strange, or rather childish. Before exchanging, Jiruo had no way of knowing the specific functions of these rewards. She could only rely on the names to make guesses. Other than the physical reward for the achievement, there were 2 other things. A bright red scarf. 1 small red flower could be exchanged for 2 red scarves. Delicious and laughable. A small red flower could be exchanged for 2 bottles of soda. It was the lowest price among all the items that could be exchanged. Chapter 94, Chapter 94, Can Your Iron Palm Cook Fried Rice? 2, 1. Chapter 94, Can Your Iron Palm Cook Fried Rice? 2, 1. As the praise continued, a student suddenly walked over and said with red eyes, "Classmate Jiruo, your singing was really good." "Thank you, you're right. I don't want to be a coward. As long as I have a breath left, I will definitely clench my fists." "Thank you." Another student mustered up his courage and walked forward. He wiped his tears forcefully and said, "I won't give up. I want to practice martial arts. I want to become stronger." They were like a switch, and more students came over to thank Ji. Some unfortunate students who were disabled were also encouraged. They loudly said that they wanted to become logistics staff in the future. Even if they couldn't go to the front line to kill enemies, they had to contribute their strength. That song had really hit their hearts. "This song is so good. Student Jiruo, what is the name of this song?" Jiruo smiled, "Dream Chasing Heart." "Dream Chasing Heart, good song." One by one, the students came over to assure Jiruo. Some even came to ask Jiruo about the details of the martial exam. "Actually, you don't have to promise me anything. Doing is more important than saying." Jiruo didn't answer them directly. Instead, she smiled and asked, "Are you guys hungry?" The students were stunned. "If you're hungry, I'll get you something to eat," Jiruo said. "When we were at Myriad Beast Mountain, I was the one who cooked." With that, Jiruo turned around and returned to the flag-raising platform, pushing his cart. "Line up if you want to eat." The young man waved at Liang Shixian. Everyone looked at him blankly. This young man had just said such terrifying words and sung such a touching song. However, he did not seem to be affected at all. He was so happy from the beginning to the end. The young man didn't seem to have said anything, but at the same time, he seemed to have said everything. Liang Shixian wiped away his tears and laughed. Coming, coming. Little Luo Qian jumped down from Jiruo's head and asked Jiruo to wrap her little claws with plastic wrap. She squatted beside a small basin and quietly switched her talent. Her illusion talent was full and she hid her little movements. Then, he quietly took out the ingredients from the Omnizo mirror and washed them in the basin. The students stared blankly at the two people and one cat who were already busy. They felt that their actions were out of tune with the atmosphere at the moment, but it was inexplicably appropriate. Yes, was there any use in making promises? He had to do it. A student suddenly rushed to Jiruo's stall and took out 10 yuan. I'm the first. Classmate Jiruo, I'll eat first. Yesterday, I saw how happy everyone was in my WeChat moments. I was so envious. Today, I want to eat my first bowl. Alright, first bowl. Jiruo smiled. Only then did the other students react. There were still traces of tears on their faces as they laughed and scolded. He actually snatched first place. That's too much. I'm also in line. I'm second, so don't fight with me. Jiruo looked at the students who still had tears on their faces and happily fried the rice with his iron palm. He was an orphan in his previous life. But so what? His previous life had already vanished into thin air, and the memories of the two lifetimes had long fused. Sometimes, Jiruo really couldn't tell if the so-called previous life was a real dream. He wasn't sure why he had transmigrated, nor did he know what his ending was in his previous life. The initial memories were very vague, and the final memories were also very vague. It was as if he had come to this world the moment he woke up. He recalled everything in the dreamland, that world, that country. Jiruo was a little dazed. Looking at the students and teachers below the stage, Jiruo suddenly felt that his previous life was still a dream. It didn't seem to be particularly important. Now, he was truly alive in this world. If the previous life was really just a dream, then it must have been a beautiful dream. The so-called past life and present life, the boundary was extremely blurry. Jiruo was a little confused, but it didn't matter. He was very happy now. Not far away, the teachers watched as the students squatted by the flag-raising platform with fried rice in their hands. They described their childish dreams to each other, causing waves of good-hearted laughter. His face was filled with gratification. The problem that had troubled them for so many days was solved by Jiruo. It didn't seem that complicated. Principal, look at this photo. A teacher suddenly said. He posted a photo he saw on his moments to the teachers' work group. The students took the photos yesterday. They were really good. The principal glanced at the photo that was full of humanity and joy. In the middle of the photo, the white-haired young man was coaxing the kitten on his shoulder. Everyone in the picture had a sincere smile on their faces. It was indeed well filmed. Why don't we discuss it with student Jiruo later and develop this photo and hang it in the teaching building, the principal said with a smile. The surrounding teachers were stunned. Principal, is this appropriate? What's inappropriate about it? The principal smiled and asked, isn't teaching and educating people what schools should do? Why wasn't it appropriate to hang a picture of a happy student? I think it's suitable. I really like this kid, Li Bindao said with a smile. Even if I don't hang it in the teaching building, I plan to print the photo and hang it in my classroom. Me too. Jiruo had been busy for half an hour. He was extremely curious about the newly unlocked exchange module of the system teacher, but it seemed that it was not a good time for him to leave. But he was really curious. Jiruo was in a dilemma. He wanted to find a quiet place to exchange for something to take a look, but he couldn't leave for a while. The teachers had already come over to help. After all, there were so many students. They couldn't just let Jiruo and Liang Shixian be busy, right? Even the kitten was helping to wash the vegetables. How could they, the elders, just stand by and watch? Li Bindao was helping to collect the money. Seeing that Jiruo's expression was getting weirder and weirder, he couldn't help but ask curiously, Jiruo, what's wrong? Is there something urgent? I want to go to the toilet. Jiruo's face turned red from his intense curiosity. Go to the toilet. Li Bindao was stunned for a moment before he laughed and scolded, child, if you want to go to the toilet, go ahead. But so many students haven't eaten yet. With us here, what are you afraid of? Hurry up and go. Teacher fried rice can do it too. I'll copy it for you. Li Bindao smiled. Ah, thank you, teacher. Jiruo couldn't wait any longer, so he brought Luo Qian to the toilet. Liang Shixian looked at Jiruo's back as he left. He didn't think much of it at first, but he suddenly thought of something. He told the teachers and got up to follow Jiruo. Li Bindao took the pot and said to the students, students, Jiruo went to the toilet. I'll cook for you next. I hope you don't mind. Haha, I don't mind, I don't mind. Li Bindao chuckled and weighed the pot. Teacher Li, do you also know how to use iron palm to fry rice? The student at the front of the line asked curiously. I know iron palm, but I can't make fried rice. Li Bindao looked down at the cart and was suddenly stunned. That's right. If he didn't know how to cook iron palm fried rice, how could he? Jiruo didn't even prepare a spatula. Chapter 95, Chapter 95, The Way to Sharing the Medicinal Power, 1. Chapter 95, The Way to Sharing the Medicinal Power, 1. In the toilet. Jiruo entered a small cubicle, locked the door, and impatiently used a small red flower to exchange for 2 red scarves. In the next moment, 2 bright-colored red scarves appeared in Jiruo's hands. He immediately checked the red scarf's attributes. Bright red scarf. Special effect 1, As you wish, can store happiness. Special effect 2, Good wishes of the martyrs, passively increases comprehension and learning ability based on happiness. Special effect 3, Blessing of the martyrs, passive, when in danger, the current store of happiness will be consumed to summon the heroic spirits of the fallen and form a happy shield. The amount of damage absorbed will be determined by the stored happiness. Special effect 4, Strength of unity, good children wearing the bright red scarf can master all skills related to the team faster. Special effect 5, Double happiness, active, consumes the currently stored happiness and temporarily boosts a specific martial technique or skill. The effect depends on happiness. Special effect exclusive to the host's children. Remark, the martyrs used blood and fire to exchange for the golden age. Cheers and laughter are the best repayment. Remark, learn happily. Remark, grow up healthily under the protection of the martyrs, comma. Remark, unity is strength. Remark, this is the corner of the red flag and the blood of the martyrs. Please wear it and cherish it. Please be healthy and happy. Remark, yesterday, I was proud of my elders. Tomorrow, my elders will be proud of me. So strong. Jiruo looked at the red scarf in his hand in surprise. A red scarf that could be exchanged for 2 red flowers actually had 5 special effects. Although the last one could only be used by him, it could still be considered a divine weapon. However, all the special effects of the red scarf were based on happiness. The effect of the red scarf depended on how happy the wearer was. Isn't this specially set for me? Jiruo happily put on the red scarf. Although there was no red scarf in this world, Jiruo had not forgotten how to wear it. Meow meow dash, master, what is this? Luo Qian jumped onto Jiruo's shoulder and curiously looked at the red scarf on Jiruo's chest. This is a red scarf. Meow dash, so beautiful. Right? Hee, only good children can wear this. Then, Jiruo prepared to exchange for something else. He still had 30 small red flowers left, so he could exchange for a lot of things. Jiruo? Jiruo? Where are you? Liang Shixian called out. Jiruo thought for a moment and stuffed the remaining red scarf into her pocket. She opened the door and said, Class monitor, I'm here. I knew you weren't here to use the toilet. Liang Shixian laughed. Jiruo, you're here to scout the location, aren't you? Liang Shixian asked mysteriously. Jiruoan was stunned. Scouting? What point? Liang Shixian continued, I've already investigated it for you. The school's manure pit isn't here. You're planning to send fertilizer to Grandpa Shan Shenmu, right? I know you're planning to use your spatial storage equipment to send it, but we don't have any way to enter and exit Myriad Beast Mountain now. Ah, this. Jiruo scratched his head and was about to tell Liang Shixian that he had a way. The teleportation device will only be activated during the martial examination. Other than that, it's very difficult for ordinary people to use the teleportation device. Usually, if they want to enter and exit the Myriad Beast Mountain, they can only go through the Mystic Realm Gate. I've already asked my father to help me register for the driver's license 2 days ago. It shouldn't take long for me to get my driver's license. When I get my driver's license, I'll accompany you to deliver it. It could be seen that Liang Shixian had put in a lot of effort. It had only been 3 days since the martial arts examination ended. Although he had been hospitalized after he returned, he had already considered everything that needed to be considered. Thank you, class monitor. Jiruo said sincerely. Hey, why are you being so polite with me? Liang Shixian smiled and lightly punched Jiruo. L should be the one thanking you. I took it for granted and almost made a big mistake. Jiruo, you sang that song really well. Although his voice was a little broken and out of tune, his emotions were very well expressed. For some reason, it gave Liang Shixian a feeling that the song should be sung that way. He shouted himself hoarse. Hee, I think so too. The white-haired young man glanced at Liang Shixian's abdomen and asked, by the way, class monitor, How's your recovery? It's almost healed. There's still some residual medicinal power from the body. Fruit, and the incision is no longer obvious. Jiruo, do you have any blood birth spirit herbs in your spatial equipment? Liang Shixian asked. If you have some, can you lend me some? Jiruo flipped his wrist and took out a large number of spirit herbs. He stuffed them into Liang Shixian's hands and said, Aya, what do you mean by loan? What's our relationship? Class monitor, you can use it as you wish. Anyway, I have a lot of these things, but class monitor, what do you want the medicinal herbs for? Blood? Liang Shixian scratched his head and said, you were right on the flag-raising platform just now. We can't just let others contribute to us. I was thinking that since the medicinal power of the life fruit still remains in my body, I plan to donate blood in the next few days. Although it won't regrow other people's broken limbs, it should be helpful for some ordinary injuries. The life fruit is so precious. I'm already fine. It's also a good thing if I can help others. Liang Shixian pushed back the spirit herb that Jiruo had given him and smiled. L borrowed the spirit herbs from you. Jiruo, help me keep them. I don't have any spatial equipment. What's the matter with me carrying a bunch of spirit herbs back from the toilet? Jiruo looked at the class monitor who was going to donate blood and help others as much as he could. She felt that her heart had been baptized again. He took out another red scarf from his pocket and handed it to Liang Shixian. Here, class monitor, this is for you. What is this? Liang Shixian looked curiously at the triangular red cloth in Jiruo's hand. Jiruo was wearing one himself. This is the red scarf. A red scarf that only good children can wear. I exchanged it with a little red flower. Little red flower. Liang Shixian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Jiruo was still so childish. However, being a little childish didn't seem to be a bad thing. Thank you, then. Liang Shixian didn't know how precious the red scarf was, so he accepted it with a clear conscience. Class monitor, stand still. I'll help you tie the red scarf. Class monitor, you must take good care of this red scarf. Jiruo said seriously as he tied the strings. It looks a little like a tie. Why is it red? Liang Shixian asked curiously. Red is the color of blood. Jiruo said, martial artists use their chi and blood to resist demons. The color of this red scarf is the color of the blood of the martyrs. They had exchanged their lives and blood for the peace they had today. They wore red scarves as if they were bringing the martyrs to witness the peace they had exchanged their lives and blood for. Class monitor, put on the red scarf and use the blood of demons to add new glory to the red scarf. Under the witness of the martyrs, you will grow up healthily and happily. Liang Shixian's expression turned serious. Although this might be another mini games invented by Jiruo himself, but he looked at Jiruo's serious face and was inexplicably influenced by Jiruo. He wanted to play this mini games with Jiruo. Good. Let the red scarf bear witness with the blood of demons. Luo Qian lay on Jiruo's head, shivering. She was a demon. Part 4 of the series ends here. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and subscribe so we can be motivated to make even better videos in the future.